gonna film this?
We'll use shorter phrases.
Yeah.
And the Constitution
And the Constitution
of the State of Oklahoma. And the Charter of the City of Pryor Creek, Oklahoma. You agreed on that one. Perfect. That helped? That I will not knowingly receive, directly or indirectly, any money or other valuable thing for the performance or non-performance of any act or duty pertaining to my office, other than the compensation allowed by law. I further swear or affirm that I will faithfully discharge my duties as Park Board seat
Park Board seat number 4,
Park Board seat number 5. Park Board seat number 1.
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
You guys all sign on that line right there. And you're sworn. All right. Awesome. We'll get that notarized.
You guys did so good.
It's the end of the day.
That's why I took mine up there and read it.
Well,
Notice he didn't give me mine.
I'm sorry. I'll do that.
Item number 3, discussion and possible action regarding nominations for chairman of the park board. I open the,
I would nominate Keith Shelby.
Second.
I second, third, fourth.
discussion,
No.
Well,
roll call.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I fourth, I don't know.
Okay, Graybill?
Aye, yes.
Riser?
Yes.
Buffington?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Alexander?
Yes.
Graves?
Yes.
Shelby?
Yes. Petitions from the audience. I see none. Hear none. Item number 5, discuss and possibly approve the minutes from May 22nd, 2023 regular meeting. Everybody looked through the notes or had time to look through them?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. Get a, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
Item number 6, discuss the possible approved minutes for July 24th regular meeting. I don't believe we had any that week. That was the month of, we was going to and didn't have enough. So make a motion, have a motion, please. Awesome.
A second.
30 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
Item number 7, Park Board report. Frank Powell.
Haven't really done a whole lot lately, just the normal maintenance, kind of waiting for the budget to get approved, and so just now starting to, go forward with some stuff, but, getting ready to, like the fence at the cemetery, to go to, not the whole fence, but in Graham, the long one that goes north and south. Got some quotes out to replace that. Just, the posts are fine, still posts, just replacing the fence part. We got the class of, I'm wanting to say it was 77. It's the same one that put the sign up at Bobby Buck originally. They were part of that class that he would have been in, I guess. So they've donated, they bought a new sign for Bobby Buck, it's up, and then they supplied a bench. And so they're kind of right beside this. The sign just replaced the other one, metal sign, and then the bench is right there by it. But Mickey Holloway's one that I've been dealing with on it, so that's all I know. I think it's 77.
There's a bunch of people, I've been by there in the evenings, and I'm surprised how many people use that part.
Or-
It's really,
Yeah,
I'm glad
you
we
can tell
put
it's
some
been
stuff
being
on.
used a lot more. And a lot of times you go by just looking at the trash barrels, you know. And of
Yeah.
course, also this time of year, a lot of times your youth football
Right.
teams or cheerleader team, you'll practice in the parks.
Well, it looks nice, and especially having that old fence taken out from last year and stuff, it makes a world of difference.
I don't know if you've all seen the new sign. It basically is just like the other one, but it's blue and yellow. And then the bench is one of those blue, like vinyl coated bench with porta pad. And it's like right there looking straight south so they can oversee the park. And we got it done. So that was nice of them on that. I'll be shutting the splash pad down sometime. I'm gonna go by the weather, because right now it's not cooling off. But sometime through next weekend, usually it's the first weekend in October is when I usually shut it down. The thing is, after Thursday, I will be out of commission for a few weeks, but, so I'm trying to decide I gotta have surgery the following week. But, so anyway, somewhere between Friday and Monday, I'm trying to decide to shut it down before the weekend, or I'll just wait and see. If it's 90 degrees, I'll leave it open through Monday probably. But,
You have any idea about what you had as far as people coming to it and stuff
I don't know,
like that?
there's about 10 or 20 on it when I came through just now.
Any issues that you've had this year
Nah,
around it, or?
We had to replace about every couple of years, the actual activator you hit goes out, and they're not cheap. And finally said they've had issues with it, so they had a new one, and we had to run a new wire through it. Anyway, we handled all that, and so it was, I don't remember how much it was, $600-700. But anyway, other than that, the last couple of years we've had no issues with the splash pad.
When we added those new features, was it last year or this year?
No, it was year before.
Was it the year before?
Yeah. But, I mean, you always have your normal little seepage on some that I gotta adjust, but that's part of it. But as for issues or anything like that,
I was gonna say, I mean,
it's been, what, 7 or 8 years?
mhm.
We've had that thing now.
And the pickleball courts are doing well and stuff like that over there?
They're being busy. I'm having issues though. People, I guess because they are being used so much, they're taping off the other courts and they're not pulling the tape up, and the tape is damaging the blue surface.
So do we need to get some signs up?
Yeah, so I'm gonna get signs up to please just, to not tape them. If they do, just remove it promptly. That's, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It shows there being more than the 2 courts being used, but yeah, that tape, when they leave it on there, it's when we pull it off, it's you can tell it was there. It's leaving like a discolorization or whatever to the existing court.
Like it's fading it differently?
Yeah, and the tennis coach is the one that's actually brought it to our attention at first, so he's seeing that, and then we've had some issues with not picking up water bottles and trash, and stuff. But it's being used, but that's because it's being used a lot.
Should we do more than 2 courts, or does that infringe too much
Well,
on tennis?
We could look at doing, but it'd be next year. We didn't budget for it this year, and being the funding was so tight. So yeah, we could look at maybe doing a couple more, for the next year, or at the end of this year, if we're setting okay, we might go to.
How much do those cost? Do you remember to do one
Well,
of
it
those
was
conversion kits?
$2,300 it was $1,800 for the kit. It was almost $500 to have the holes drilled, but they were already painted off. So I'd have to have that done, so I don't know how much that would be.
Okay, that's,
So-
this is an idea, okay.
It was 2,300 once, you know, for the kit and the holes.
So I think there's going to be more interest, because it's growing, and so I was hoping that as you look at your budget, and we get towards April, May,
And that's kind of how we done it last year.
Yeah.
We realized we actually had some money left over, and so, you know, that may come down to that.
because I really think with the interest we've got and the number of people we have participating, our people participating in tournaments,
Yeah.
I kind of have a vision for having a Pryor pickleball tournament someday.
And there was, in the middle of the day, one day, Thursday or Friday last week, in the middle of the day, and then I seen a big old group. They come and showed up. And then through the weekend, I went and people had lawn chairs sitting out there and they're playing, I think that was Saturday.
Well, the thing is, as far as I know, this hasn't been publicized in Tulsa or in the surrounding communities, and I think with the shortage of courts that I hear about around here, that when they find out we have lighted
That's-
courts,
And all the lights have been finally
they're
installed now, so we're all parks totally LED.
but I think, you know, next summer, if this gets out, we could see a lot of traffic coming in from out of town, and of course, that benefits restaurants, gas stations, and the whole bit when we start getting out of town.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of my hope, just letting everybody know, is that come April, May, check that budget, and then if the budget's tight or something, then we might go out and see if we can get corporate
You know,
sponsors.
it's one of those where, tennis will still be going through May by
Right.
then.
Mhm.
You know, maybe there's money to pre-buy the kits that we,
Yeah.
and then once July gets here, then we get them, you know, painted off or the lines marked off and then, you know. Well, to me, it's even better reason now that we've done the extra parking too.
Well, I guess my question would be, and for us up here, would it be of interest to find out what it would cost to build courts?
Well,
And-
I called, when all this started up a year ago or whatever, you know, and the same, well, this is with the company that or if you say overlaid,
Mhm.
the tennis courts, including fencing, because you'd have to have something around it. He said a single court would be about $40,000.
So the mayor, the
Yeah.
property behind
Mm-hmm.
the
To the
tennis
south.
court.
To the south?
Yes, sir.
To the south of the courts.
So we've inquired on that property. It's a 1.1 acre stretch behind our property there at the Parks Building and the back of the homes on Irving. We've talked with the property owner. I feel like that price is still pretty high for a landlocked. They're still at 49,000 is what they're asking for that. So it's a no-go till they decide to come down. Do what?
It's just 1 acre?
1.1 acre. But it's
They
landlocked
can't-
on three
They can't
sides.
get to anywhere.
No.
No, it's landlocked on
It's
three
a
sides
long,
by
narrow
us,
strip.
so,
Has much value other than for the city.
Yeah.
yeah.
Of course, if you put courts there, then somebody's probably gonna complain about the lights,
Or parking.
maybe. I mean, there's lots of
Need more
issues there
parking.
too.
I mean, there's a lot that could be done with that space. I don't know if we've measured out to see if it's big enough for more courts, but it definitely either way could be parking, you know, or something, but one, until we have a definite use of what we could do for it. Two, when the price comes down to somewhat reasonable and they're willing to, you know, negotiate that price, then we'll look at it, but in the meantime, we'll just continue to landlock it for them.
Well, and then the question over by the volleyball courts. I know that we had talked about putting bike or a skate ramps through there. You know, I mean, there's a couple of places, I just think if there truly is a need and we're starting to see an influx for that, I mean, we'd be crazy not to look at it and start really putting some pen to paper and, you know, how can we achieve, it sounds like to me, we need at least two to,
Well, how many
at
do we
least a
have
2 to
right now?
4.
How many, we have 2 right now?
Correct.
How many is at the
But I
rec center?
can, and those two said were only $2,300. You're talking probably, if you do 4 courts, a
So-
good 100 and something thousand.
So when I started investigating this, it's been over a year ago, and came up with these numbers, we looked at the property across the street to the north of Bobby Buck Park, a couple lots there, and, you know, we looked all around town trying to find places. It seems to be the best thing to do is to learn how to share it with the tennis people right now,
Yeah.
let them have it during,
Yeah.
say, February through May, and then when the tennis season is over for the high school, then take down their nets, put up our nets.
Is it hard to switch back and forth between the net?
No, this kit, we had holes drilled, and there's a
Sleep.
pipe, the sleeve that drops down in there, and then the pickleball post drop down in there. And so when tennis comes up, we just pull them up, and then we put the tennis net back up, because and, yeah, it won't take just a few minutes.
How, if you were going to put a tournament on, 2 courts isn't enough, correct?
No,
I think I'd like to at least have the courts, 1, 2, 3, 4,
yeah.
and then, of course, court number 5 is already marked off. I think that would be a good start, to have 5 pickleball courts right there, and then you still have 3 tennis courts for those people that are still wanting to play tennis. It'd be,
The way the school's always doing stuff for, a few years, you keep hearing rumor that they keep talking about possibly building their own tennis courts. If that's the case, then
That'd be
there's no
nice.
issue of turning these, or for them totally just
Right.
pickleball.
and so I have heard those plans too.
Yeah, I heard they were actually in the last plans, and they got pulled out at the last minute with the football.
Does anybody but the school use the tennis courts for tennis, though?
The tennis,
Yeah.
the school,
Yeah,
high school
so-
tennis. Yeah,
Right, but I
there's-
mean, anybody outside of just the high school use it for
We
tennis?
used to have somebody come up and, what was it, a couple years ago, they came up and did a,
There used to be a big
Fundraiser,
tournament
remember
around
that?
Memorial Day.
There used to be a tournament that was held annually, a couple of tournaments.
I mean, you see, like every mornings now, there'll be there's always some, but not 8 courts worth.
Right,
They're using like
like
one
if we
or
left
2.
one maybe for tennis,
Yeah,
it'd be nice if the school did build their own.
yeah,
They have the money to.
It's in the plans.
yeah. And then that would be my thing, saying jump into
Yeah,
trying to
Building
budget for
new.
new ones, just see what happens. 'Cause we already know we can turn these into over for just a few $1,000s.
It's a perfect, to me, it seems like the
And they
perfect
work
solution,
good.
is try to gradually work this through. I mean, I don't even know if that $40,000 you talked about even included lights or not.
No, that was just a single
See,
court, and then
yeah.
and that was been a year or 2 ago. It's
So,
Probably a lot more.
maybe more now.
it just seems like the way things are going, that's just a perfect transition, and it looks like it's easy to share with the tennis people. Anyway,
Yeah, because like right now, they, I don't know if it's high school or junior high, but they show up at 2:30 now and practice, and like you said, they know how to work together. There's been no issues.
yeah.
just curious to see, if the need is there, and if you did a tournament, could you put a tournament on as it sits right now?
But you need what, 4 total? to do a
At
tournament?
least, yeah,
Roy, do you know how many we have at the rec?
3.
Right.
We could
So-
use 3 there.
If we, in the spring, like I said, keeping on the budget, I'd probably keep it to the west court and just go ahead and look at doing all 3, not
That's
just
right.
2, but them 3. Now, that would end up giving 5 courts, but
Yep.
4 on one and then the one.
Would that work then?
That'd be a good step forward. If we wanted to hold a tournament, we could do 5 courts there, and if we needed more, we could go to the rec center and ask them to use those 3.
Well, I think it needs to be,
It would be nice if they were all together,
It would be.
Yeah,
for a
that,
tournament anyway.
Yeah,
and like I
absolutely.
said, when we done that originally, had them marked off.
What makes it nice at having something like that at the park is that you have spectator viewing is easy. Whereas if you're at the rec center,
Yeah.
you don't have room for spectators unless you block off the half of the track and have them looking over the rail.
John Ballou lives in the house right across from the shop, and he caught me the other day, and he was just like, man, he said, I never in the world would have thought that picture. He said every night there's somebody playing, and he says, and them new lights, he says, wow, and they're not even set on the brightest. I can, they're LED, and they had like 4 settings, and I actually put it on the middle. It's not even the brightest, but,
Well-
but yeah, he told me there's plenty of
Not
pickleball.
to chase something we've already talked about, but is the individual that owns that, can they benefit from maybe a donation donation to the city and a lower price, or play some of that stuff? Has that been talked about? And nice for the city to have that in their back pocket at a reasonable price
So
for
the
some
discussion was
purpose.
opened about the property. There wasn't a whole lot of willingness on the other side to
Okay,
go into depth on how low they wanted to go, so
Yeah.
just let it sit there for a little bit.
see what he can
Not
get
something
first.
we have to do right now, but
No, to me, I think it's something that maybe we look at further down. We got on our list about subcommittees, but I think maybe it's time to set that up, and especially if there's a wants and needs, to really get that ready, because what a great thing to have to come into the city of Pryor, be at the park, and, there's a lot of stuff, hopefully we'll be ready and help us.
That'd be nice if we could do that, I guess, looking at end of April, and,
And I, just throwing this out there, if there's that many playing, I don't know if certain ones we might have donate money towards.
that's why I was talking about corporate.
Yeah,
we've got-
actually, yeah,
We've got some people that,
not towards the court, but just doing what we're talking about.
exactly, just doing what we're doing, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
3 courts, I'm gonna say between $5,000 and $6,000 is the most it would be to do the other 3 courts.
Does that include the painting the?
Yeah, that's, yeah,
the-
yeah. I'm gonna say it would be about 4 for the 3 kits, and then just getting,
Be nice to be positioned to have a tournament to see how that might work out next fall sometime. It'd be nice to be able to see, well, what's gonna happen with that? Worst thing that could happen, you could turn teams away, right?
yeah. It's like we already, Grove, what other towns? 2 towns that use
Tulsa
Pryor
has a
tennis
huge
courts
one. I
for
was-
their tournament.
Do they not,
Tennis
Tulsa doesn't have
tournament,
any?
I mean,
I would assume Tulsa has pickleball.
Well, I mean, they've got pickleball, but I was just looking the other day, they had a huge tournament. I forgot how many they turned out, how much impact it was to the
that's,
city.
that's
We
what
did.
it's done.
was that the Abundant Life Church?
I
We
think,
hosted the veterans group hosted a pickleball tournament. I believe it was Abundant Life Church. It's on 129th past the Warren Theater. And they had in their church, 3 courts, and we held, a 3-day tournament, and it was game after game, dawn to dusk. And, those bring in a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, we brought in just shy of $10,000 just on registration.
So I can't imagine that this wouldn't work. Well, I think it's definitely something we need to put on our radar then, and figure out how to get funding for it. Work in coordination with Frank and, try to say by, I'm throwing this out there, August, September, whatever that is for a tournament.
I haven't done it yet, and that's my bad. I mean, it just takes me a phone call to call the guy to get a quote on what it's gonna cost just to have the courts, actually painted off. And I can find that out
I think it'd be good, just because, if you think there is enough wants and needs and you get some sponsorship, I don't think, I think we need to at least investigate to see where that goes.
I agree,
Okay,
I think that'd be great.
go ahead on, sorry, Frank, we got off on a
That's-
kind of little deal there, but
pretty much about all I have, really.
cemetery, did they get some land behind?
No, they ended up turning it down,
No, the asking price was too high, so, council rejected that offer. I've talked to the gentleman that owns that property, he's not opposed to starting from scratch. That whole process with that land started back before March, so we were basically cleaning up the tail end of that agreement. They're not opposed to it, they wanna get rid of it, but the 20,000 for the 1.6 acre was kind of the same deal as the other one, just too high, and so.
it was, when I came to you all years.
Is a
it's like over
100?
100.
Yeah, 110 or something,
Yeah.
whatever, what it was.
Down to 20.
Yeah, so, and his words to me were,
106,000.
he is willing to restart a new counteroffer on that if we chose, but he wants to get rid of it pretty quick, so, we're not, busting at the seams to make that happen at this.
But it
point.
is landlocked though, right? So it's not,
Yeah, so it's landlocked and it has no access easement, so, everyone, it benefits us.
So where is that property?
You know where the Stevens Key Funeral Home is? It's right there adjacent to that. So there.
It's right behind it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the original deal with that chunk of land is that it was originally, eyeballed, if you will, for, water detention. So there with the Fairland, the water coming off the cemetery, it would slow that down. That would help us with our North Bailey area that we just bought all those properties to kind of slow it down as it got into the Park Branch. So, you know, it would just be a matter of, is that big enough to do water detention and give Frank a place to put a shed if he needed to? That's what we'd have to look at, see if it's worth the money, so.
How are you doing on cemetery stuff now? I know that you were,
This cemetery's been going pretty
you got
well.
enough open and blocks and stuff. I know that we had talked about.
Yeah, we got the lots south, they're surveyed out.
Okay,
And so next phase will be all budget for, you know, to cut out for roads. The drainage is already in, you know, when we done the drainage way back, so luck, that's an area that was a plus. And I don't know, they'll tell you out there that like talking about opening up more and how we're running out of room, that's when they get hit, like people will come barging in, buying lots, and so, you know, when I approached y'all originally a couple years ago and said it's gonna be like 7 years,
Yeah.
you know, till we're sold out, you know, it's down to like 4. I mean, they've sold the, because you don't necessarily have to actually, you know, use them, just somewhat buy them up, but yeah, so,
wow,
yeah.
wow,
So,
awesome, man. Anything else, Frank?
that's all I got, I think, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Golf course report? Mr. Dennis Bowman? Heard you had some guests come out during, Born and Raised.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun out there at the golf course. You know, we've had a great July and August. So, was named Gary Allen. He brought his tour bus out, and him and his manager and a few guys played. So it's always fun to have some celebrities out there.
Talked very highly of the golf course too. Very
Good.
highly, very highly of it.
Good, yeah, they seem like great guys. They had a good time, and we got to talk to them a little bit. So, a lot of fun stuff. Like I said, just a really good July and August. You know, July and August is the hottest time of the year for us. It's the hardest time for our maintenance crew out there. It's hot, it's dry. We have to do a lot of watering and try and take care of the golf course, a lot of mowing. So, but we come through there pretty good. We just finished up having the Ray Court Family Foundation tournament. That all went good. We got rained on almost all day, but we managed to get the tournament in last Friday. We have the Williams United Way tournament coming up on Friday, the 6th of October, and so that's always a big one. It's fun to have the United Way out there and all the Williams people. That's a great time. I expect hopefully we'll raise a lot of money for their event also. October 22nd, we'll have the U.S. Kids Tournament. That's a big one. They'll come in from all over the place. It's unlike our PGA Junior Tournament, they come in from 3 states, Oklahoma, southern half of Kansas, and Arkansas. With the U.S. Kids Tournament, they can come in from any state. So last year we had people from all over the United States. So it's fun to host those kind of events and have those kids come out and play. And it's a good time of the year. The weather's usually good, so we look forward to having that one. This time of the year, we had, you know, the windstorms. We've had 2 or 3 of them out there. It really took a lot of damage to the course. It took our crew a lot of manpower just to pile them up where they're out of play so that we could still play the golf course. That was the Father's Day weekend. So we got hit on Wednesday and Saturday. So, but anyway, Johnny Jansen and him been real instrumental in taking care of all the FEMA paperwork. We had to secure a burn permit again. We have a burn permit with the Corps of Engineers where we burn, but this one has to be different. So it's a whole bunch more red tape that Johnny went through, and big help to us getting that done. And then street department, they come out 2 weeks ago and moved all that brush. I mean, we had 5 different brush piles, and we don't have any equipment to move it with. I mean, it's crazy. But those guys come out there for 2 days and piled it all up, and as soon as they did that, Johnny took his pictures and we lit a match to it, and it disappears pretty quick. It was nice and dry, but, so we had that to deal with, but it's all going good, because I think we have to, a little bit more, we have to push up and burn, but it has to be done by the October 14th, I believe, we have to be done with it. So we should have that in good shape. Mayor and I have been working on the bridges and cart paths. I've been getting him all that information, and so trying to make some progress on that. And I know some of that's probably gonna be contingent on the budget. I don't know, Mayor, if you have anything to add to that, or, you know.
So, yeah, like I said, Dennis and I have been kind of talking about that. I want to go back just a hair to what he said about the burn pits. So I know typically we haven't had, I know this sounds like new, burn pits at the golf course. So what we found out was, Johnny Jensen came to and he said, hey, we're gonna have a problem if we continue using the burn pit that we're using at the brush pile. So FEMA says that we can't use for our emergency, because they measure it by tonnage of what you have, how much volume of shrubs you have. And so if you're putting it where you put all your normal day-to-day shrubs, then they say you're cheating. And we don't want that. We don't want to appear that we're cheating. So what we had to do is we had to come up with an alternative site in addition to what we had already put at that site, not knowing that stipulation. So guy that's got some land gets a burn spot. And so he had already had some stuff piled up there. So that said, we were more than willing to give him some assistance to get out there and kind of get it cleaned up. And yes, Buddy did a great job getting out there. So anyways, that said, as we get into looking at the bridges and the cart paths, you know, I think most of you have been out there and seen some of them. Some of those areas look really good. Some are starting to show their wear. And so I think going forward, we'll just kind of identify what the worst spots are, get some bidding on what repairing those are. He's got, was that the one where they're by hole 8, that bridge?
Right, eight's probably, yeah.
We had our golf tournament out there, and I sat at hole 8, and I just was waiting for that bridge. Every cart that went across, I wanted to just see if it would bounce, but it's looking pretty rough. And so he's got some capital laid aside for that. He's got some monies that came in from Cherokee Nation dedicated for paths and bridges. So we want to make sure that we use that the best we can and not just hit the wrong spots thinking those are the right. So we'll probably get out there, look at it, and going forward, that process, once we identify those, we'll bring those to you guys. You guys can send that to the council for approval, and then we'll start that official bidding process. So any questions on that?
Did Dennis get to keep, the golf course get to keep the overage that they've had? Like,
Yeah,
a report that you said,
There was
I'm
some
trying to
money
remember
left
them,
over.
like there was $250,000 over, you were gonna keep 100,000 for cushion money, and then 150 for,
Capital improvements.
yeah, so.
That money stays in our.
Good, okay, that's what I was
So we made
wondering.
sure that when we did that budget, we
Gotcha.
had
So those funds are still there.
Jeff Coker roll that out.
So it's just a priority plan, a kind of a master plan on
Pretty
how to go
much.
about that and which comes first and.
And, you know, Dennis may decide that he wants to, you know, I don't know if you want to do a little subcommittee or whatever, people, but I think just him and I identifying what needs first and foremost. You know, there are some areas that, I don't know if the carts are gonna continue to go over without flattening a tire or whatever, but there are a lot of those paths that are perfectly fine, and so, you know, what do we wanna do? We talked when we were out there about, you know, what a 6-foot overlay of asphalt on most of it.
Right.
Just, it's really seeing how far our money will go and what we can get for it.
Yep.
And identifying worst-case scenarios first.
How long do you think it'd take to get a master plan together so that can be identified? Is that something that can be done together pretty quickly, or is it a next
for sure.
spring type deal then, probably?
I would like to see them done by next spring,
Okay.
by the time we open the
Yep.
season up, have the majority of
Did we
everything.
have one of
When wintertime's a good time to get it done.
Master plan.
Well, you know, the courses, in spite of the paths and some of the bridges and everything, you know, it's kind of an envied course in golfers in this whole area, to come and see, and they talk about it, which makes more people come. So it's a good position to have, for sure.
Yep, appreciate that. We hear comments daily on our golf course. People coming over and playing from Sand Springs, Broken Arrow, all the area golfers. I mean, because golfers will drive about, an hour to play. So if you live within an hour of our golf course, Arkansas, believe how many people come from Arkansas. And it's kind of, there's a lot of people that will, for some reason, we're kind of a central little area. If you're coming from the east or west, they meet in the middle. And if they're coming from the south and north, they meet here in the middle. People come from Joplin, people meet people from Muskogee, and they meet here. It's kind of interesting, some of the ways people end up at our golf course, so. But, yeah, thank you, Mayor, for that update there. The city fathers, and, they have to do things, they have to make hard decisions, just like we all do, y'all do, and everybody else, and so they, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there is a hiring freeze, and it includes our temporary workers. So the golf course, for some of you may not know, there's myself and Alan Knoll is the only city employees out there. So the rest of the maintenance crew is all temporary helpers. So we call the temp service and they send them out, and we've weeded them out. We have, the few I have right now are really good, but during the summertime, every time towards the end there, I lose one, we can't rehire them. And we lose two, we can't rehire them. So it, puts quite a bit of a strain on our little small staff that we have, but the only good thing is the heat is over with for the most part, and that's because that's a really taxing job, taking care of those greens. You got 20 greens out there that we have to take care of, and I mean, it's like babysitting 8 hours a day. You have to watch them constantly. And less number of people, the more of a tax that is on everybody. So, but we've been making things do. We've had members come out, several members come out and actually weed eat and do things to. They understand what we're up against, and so but they want their golf course to be taken care of. So and we're really in good shape, and everybody's proud of our golf course. So people have stepped up to help us keep it there, and so hopefully things will change, and because it'd be hard to operate like this through spring. Hopefully city can get their things straightened out so that we can operate our business as we need it to.
How many temp agents do you have right now?
Right now, I have one that's part-time, and then I have 3 of them that are full-time, that we work 40 hours a week. So,
Are those seasonal? Or are they, you say full-time, but,
well, we just work them 40 hours a week.
but you don't
Through the-
let any of them go during the winter time, or?
We usually downsize to about 3 through the winter time, which that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So we kind of,
Come spring, you'll need more.
yes, in the spring, we try to get up to 7, 8 people out there, and that's about a minimum to operate that place. And so it gets pretty.
So the benefit of having somebody temporary, full-time, permanent versus hiring somebody, I guess, benefits and things like that, is that what goes into that? Because you just avoid that 25 or 30% increase in benefits that go along with the salary.
Right. There's a huge cost
Yeah.
savings to hire a temp versus hiring somebody as a city employee.
Right, okay.
Any other questions on that? And of course, I guess we'll go over any questions y'all have with the budget when we get to that and our capital improvements.
Last couple of years, you've done your hayride and stuff. Are we not doing it this year?
Yeah, there's no way. I can't do it with the shortage of people that we have. It's all we can do to take care of the golf course, much less try to prepare for an event that big. We can't do that. And enough time, period, right now.
How many people does it take to put that together? What's
It
the
took a
minimum?
lot of my time.
I mean,
So,
understanding that part.
You know, in the past, you know, we've had about roughly 35 to 40 volunteers out there. And it took, taking our golf course staff quite a bit of time to prepare things, and, you know, the roads all have to, you know, because they all grow in, and the
Mhm.
trees grow like crazy out there, it's crazy. But to prepare the roads and the hay and doing all that kind of stuff. But it's a big operation, it's fun, I mean, I enjoy seeing those kids come out and hop on that deal, but, you know, we're just taxed right now. 2 very busy summers and just not enough of us to go around.
Do you have off the top of your head, have an idea of who benefited from that as far as, who's gonna see a financial impact? I think you were giving money to the Lions Club.
We did
They-
the Lions Club, and then the other charity 2 years ago, we did like 2, 3 different charities. I can't remember the names of them, to tell you the truth right now. But it's, should all be on the record where we disperse the money out.
Well, I was just wondering if those are people that were, you know, benefiting from what you raised there. I'm assuming the golf course, we made money on it as a golf course,
A little bit, but
Not-
not enough.
not significant.
No, it's, you know, we use a lot of fuel, you know, just running those tractors for 3 days and everything, so the fuel and stuff, manpower, it break even at best for the golf course.
You would think there would be a organization that would want to step up and, because you had a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, the first year, last year we got rained out.
Right.
Every night, it rained every night on us
Right.
last year. That first year, we had, you know, that one night, we had well over 2,000 people out there one night. And at one time, just about, so I'm like, ooh, there's people everywhere. Parking, I mean, you know, we have a lot of parking out there, and we filled it up, so it's crazy.
Might be something Boys and Girls Club.
Yep, yeah, if we could find an organization that would wanna,
How long does it
But-
take to put it together?
it probably takes,
A
you
week.
know, a month.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a
I would have guessed a couple of months.
So I think we're probably all thinking the same thing. As a fundraiser,
mhm.
it's a pretty effective fundraiser for somebody
For somebody.
that would be
100%.
willing to put in
Yep.
the effort.
The time and money, yep.
And I don't know the impact on you, that's the other side of it though, is how much can they take on without, yeah, affecting your workload?
Exactly.
So it might be for people that are looking, when we hear people looking for fundraisers. and
Yep.
A lot of people like to use the golf course,
Sure. Yeah, we
As
do a lot of tournaments.
tournaments and
Right,
things.
charitable events.
but
Yeah, absolutely.
Make
Somebody
people
would
aware
wanna
of it.
do it, you know, I'm all for it. I'm just taxed out,
yeah,
you know. You just, you know, with our staff, we're just way too small to even think about it. That golf course, we're so far behind on trees. I got trees over there leaning against each other that we've gotta cut down, and,
It's been a crazy year.
yeah, it's been a crazy year, so.
And as far as your membership and stuff, membership looks like it's still doing pretty well.
Yes, yeah. Now, we did a membership drive last September because we was gonna increase the rates, and, you know, I still think we need to do something on our memberships, but I wanna come up with another membership plan a little closer to Christmas, you know, have it all out a month before Christmas, so next 30 days, I'll be looking at trying to create another membership drive that people could buy for Christmas presents or start the new year buying somebody a present.
Well, I noticed that several times I've been out there, it seems like the golf course is really full.
Yeah,
There's
we do.
always,
Yep.
I mean, it's always full.
Yeah, this is starting our 3rd year of being busy, and it's been great. You know, but there's a few growing pains with it, but it's all, that's the kind you wanna have.
Okay. Awesome. Any questions for Dennis or? Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. Come out and see me. Like us on Facebook.
Full task force, update. You wanna, Mayor?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
You can chime in.
Okay.
So here we are about a month in. We've had 2 meetings. Very, very productive meetings.
Good.
I think we hit gold on the task force group. Man, everybody's coming excited, energized, ready to discuss without, no bickering. There's no, it's kind of nice. But first meeting we had, we got together, just kind of set the tone of the meeting, let everybody know, where we're going with it, what the goal is, what the vision is, what our tentative timeline is. The tentative timeline is, we want to set goals that are attainable. So May of '26, we hope to have toes in the water somewhere. So when we say somewhere, we don't have anything on the canvas right now. It's an open canvas for this full task force. And I appreciate fully that they take it seriously, but step one is identifying what it is we even want to do. And where we're going to go with funding, how we're going to fund it, those options. And so one of the things that we did in our first meeting is we just looked at different ideas. We had a slideshow that had, I think about 30, maybe 40, I don't know, numbers are relevant, but they were just different ideas, different pools, aerial views, side views of pools that are in the area throughout the country. For example, Salisaw is building one right now, and that kind of caught a lot of attention. It just was the way it was designed and laid out. And Jared with MUB got on the phone in the middle of the meeting and sent Salisaw a message and said, "What are you dropping on your pool?" And he came back and said, "Well, here's the number." We're like, okay, cool. Now we know, it gave us a ballpark. But the idea is that it's good to have, we have construction on this crew, we have consultant, we have, we just have a good group of experience. And so step one was we put out a survey. I don't know if you guys saw that. I just happen to have this one on my desk today when it came in. If you haven't seen it,
I did the survey.
ignore the name. I don't know who that is, but you can just pass that through. It's just real generic, but 10 questions. Do you like it? Is it important to you? Diving boards. Do you like diving boards? No, I don't like diving boards. And so we got those surveys back, and it was pretty much, as you'd expect, the same thing. Like, you could look at it and go, oh, that's the old people, that's the young people. It's great, but it gave us a lot of input in terms of what we wanted. Step two, I don't know if any of you were at the football game the other night, or where else have we done this?
We did it at Main Street, third Thursday.
And surprisingly, it was well attended, is we got poster boards. And on those poster boards, we put different aspects of pool life, gazebos that you can rent out for parties, lazy rivers. Do you want this? Do you want palm trees? What elements do you want? And we gave the public little green dots, and we said, go put a dot on the picture you like the most.
Really?
If I had to put my money on it right now, it didn't even, Lazy River was by far completely filled in with
I'm
green. It
sure.
was- I bet there were probably
Oh,
close to 500 dots
Yeah.
on that one.
I think I marked yes on everything.
And so, does that mean that's what we're doing? No, that just means it tells us what the public's wanting. And so as the pool task force goes forward, remember the goal is to stay ahead of, whatever happens in Veneta. We want to stay ahead of that. The idea there is that the majority of the people that live in our area with their kids, middle to low class or whatever, reality is we're not going to that amusement park every day. I can only imagine for my family, it costs a couple $100 every time we go, but my kids would go to a local pool, probably more frequently. And so, that said, we're gonna pose these questions in Salina and Langley, and anywhere that we can go in Mays County and say, hey, let's get some buy-in on this. Let's get some buy-in on what you would expect to see at a pool that you would attend. And so what we're finding is concessions are huge. Concessions are huge. So we may have a lazy river with a whole bunch of hot dogs on a roller bar. I don't know. But the idea is we're getting a lot of good feedback. And so Pool Task Force is moving forward really well. So
We had one of the things I was gonna tell you, it was kinda interesting, cause myself, Zach was up there, there were several of us that worked it. And I think one of the most takeaways that I had from it, because, you and I have sat up here forever, most of the things I heard was, how do I fund this, or how can I send money, and how can I help, which was very odd. That was one of the takeaways. And the second was, everybody wants some type of input in on it. The biggest takeaway was, where is it gonna be? How much is it gonna cost? I don't, you know, for the longest time, I thought, well, I think we'll scare them to death whenever, if we give them everything they want, but, you know, after listening to people, I think that's what they want. I think they really, you know, Muskogee, I heard Muskogee a bunch, and I said, well, actually, we'll probably make one better than what Muskogee has, but it's truly, where's it gonna be, what's the cost gonna be? And I don't think cost is gonna be so much of an issue as I first thought. I could be wrong, but
So one of
It
the
was
things, we talk
interesting.
about cost, one of the things that we've discussed in this, and it's, help me with the name of the place,
I know you're gonna ask that, and I just went brain dead, because I was talking to him today.
Mr. Moore at the rec has an acquaintance that the something
Stevenson?
house.
Oh,
Steven- You think about it, when it comes up, then you say it out loud. The idea is, it's a company that helps in these scenarios, it's fundraising consulting. And so they come in and they tell you not, well, here's where you're gonna get your money, but they go out and say, hey, reach out to this way, do it this way. These are the type of groups that you're gonna get big money from, corporate money from. This is what you need. And so we're entertaining whether or not that would be beneficial to do that. You know, would a small, and the EDTA can fund that easily with what they're allowed to fund. And then we would bring them in and they would help us find monies without having to use borrowed money. That would be the ultimate goal, is to, you know, I think Pryor learned a really good lesson with Freedom Fest this year. You know, something we haven't done for a while, something we haven't had. And at no cost to the city, we still have people coming to us, I do, I know Adam has, saying, hey, I wanna be a part of next year.
right.
The community's willing to fund these things. We provide them what we can, and hopefully, the goal is that we can meet that May 26th goal and give them what they want. You know, we've talked about, and when I say we've talked about, these are just, you know, if we're gonna spend the money, we're gonna do it right. We're not gonna, you know, kinda do something where we're like, One of the things that, Mike and I talked about, this week was a, company out of, I want to say out of South Dakota or somewhere, that provides a retractable canopy for these things. And it comes with a price, you know, let's not get hung up on that. It does come with a price. But that would allow us to use this pool year-round. They're weather tight, and takes 2 minutes to retract it over a full Olympic-sized pool. So is that something we would consider? You know, if we're gonna invest in it, something to think about. So as we go forward, all thoughts are on the table, everything's up for discussion. But I love that this group is strong enough and willed enough to, it's like
It's not,
like the Smith House or something like that.
it's odd, but they were talking about, they used it in, was it Iowa where they used it? They've used it
Yeah,
in
a lot of the
several places.
YMCA's will use this. They'll go out and the YMCA's will fund themselves.
They will literally identify the top so many.
Yeah. And so,
Is it something like Mid-America would be willing to, like, if you said, hey, we'll put a sign up that you donated to it or something like that?
well, it would all be part of that process. It would be, you know, what business wants to pitch in. I mean, that's how the sporting world works, right? You know, that's why we have the various domes and amphitheaters throughout the nation
Right.
that have titles on them. And so as we go forward, it's all on the table. It's all an option, but.
I think in a conversation I had with Mike, it was, and I can't remember the name either, but it was something that they help you target the people that you want to try to
Yeah.
enlist
Yeah.
to raise funds,
Correct.
to help you raise funds, and they'll identify targets based on certain metrics in the community and surrounding.
They
area.
develop a plan, and do they hold your hand through the process of the fundraising?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's pretty neat deal.
So is it a free service, or what is it? I mean,
No, I think.
I didn't think so.
You would carry a price on it, and that would be determined on how much we use, what we expect from him, and, you know, that's all discussed.
They don't take a percentage of what you raise.
No, this
They
one
don't set
isn't.
it like that.
This one would be a flat
Flat
cost.
rate.
So, but that is well within the purview of the EDTA's funding, is to be able
Sure.
to fund something like that, because that would bring economic development for the community, so.
You gotta spend some to make some.
Well, one of the things we identified was, like the mayor just said, was whenever you look at what's going north of us, people are going to want alternative things to do.
Sure.
And for us, even as a group, we noticed that, just what you said, where we're gonna put it, you know, let's just be realistic and say, if we put it in where the current pool is now, there's no parking. If they asked for everything they wanted and got, there'd be zero parking unless we cut down the street.
It'd be a tiny lazy river, it'd be a lazy stream.
It would be a river.
Head in, head out, you're done, go home, right? But the other thing we have to talk about, like, you know, as we talk about that location, keep in mind that that is floodplain. And so, as we remove that old pool, we're gonna be bound to, you know, restrictions of floodplain, what we can put in, what we can take out, what we can move. That's gonna be all part of the process. Nobody has those answers right now. But this group, you know, between the brains and minds that are on this committee, I am confident 100% that we'll get it figured out. We've hit every target so far that we've tried.
It's been really interesting to see how fast it has moved in the response from the city, or from the citizens, because we put it out within a week. We had 750 surveys back in.
Well, it's all over
750.
Facebook, all over Facebook.
It's really
Is that
good.
how you distribute it, just electronically?
So we had a QR code, and then like this one, I have some up here on the counter. We put some just strategically throughout Mays County, we've put these. But I think the biggest is that, you know, one thing you're not gonna find, and this was agreed upon by the group, is you're not gonna find open discussions about it on Facebook. So the idea is we need to move forward. We just need to keep that ball rolling. So we may give updates, but we won't give discussions. And that's not to isolate. Obviously, we wanna hear what the people have to say.
Right.
But
Well, I
we
mean,
feel-
just filling out the survey. That survey was put all over Facebook and people were sending it in.
And we've had a survey that we did, the board did, and it was much more in depth. It seemed to go on forever, but the idea is that we're getting the right information. And so, you know, how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. And we're taking some pretty big bites and we're getting there, so.
Any other questions?
Very positive.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Good job.
Item number 10, discussion regarding park board subcommittees. I put that on there because visiting with Chris, in the years past, we had a pool subcommittee, we had a golf course subcommittee. What
We had a
else?
park subcommittee, ball fields. I think we combined parks and ball field. And now we have a cemetery subcommittee since we've joined the two boards that included. So, but I think it's really up to the board and with any other input that says, where do we need subcommittees? And the purpose, and I think most everybody's aware of this, but the purpose behind the subcommittee was somebody that could, you didn't have to have all the board. They went and did their homework, gathered the information, kind of like you guys are doing on pickleball right now. And then bring your best thoughts back together and present it to the board. And then we could vote on them, whether that's something we want to move on to the city for approval. And so it's just a matter of us deciding what do we think warrants a subcommittee. Pool used to be a subcommittee.
I don't think we necessarily need that now that we have the task force.
Well, and that's, in visiting with Chris, you know, one of the discussions, we know that we need a golf course subcommittee. I think we can all agree upon that. I think we need, a pickleball or tennis. And do we need one for the parks?
What about the
Does
skateboard?
pickleball and all that fall under parks then?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I mean, that's what, I guess that's my question. That's my question. What do we need for
Are
subcommittees?
you looking at task force or are you looking at subcommittees? And are the subcommittees gonna be consistent of just this board or outside
No,
people?
just this,
Just, they're typically 3 members.
Because this board is small.
Yeah.
And we seem to be doing really well with what, all the information that Frank's giving us and all the information that Dennis is giving us.
well, it's just a question. I brought it up because do we feel like we're covering everything we need, or do we need extra attention on some areas.
It's really it's really more of an efficiency thing, I think, in that we don't have, I mean, we could have an agenda item that might take us for everybody to get comfortable and say, a lot of times the subcommittee comes forward and says, we've done the homework, we've done the research, and here's what we recommend. Versus the whole board having to research it, study it, and coming up here and having a roundtable discussion. We'll still get into that, we have historically.
So these are more project-related within the environment of the
Right.
parks and the assembly. More
It is
project,
these
just to
days.
keep it off from getting high-centered somewhere.
In
Right.
the old
Keep it pushing
days, and
forward.
we've transitioned from that, but yeah, in the old days, it used to be subcommittees were more engaged, even at the budgeting level. And that's evolved from that. But what I would say about, when you think about the big chunks, and help me out here, Frank, you've got ball fields. If we just say ball fields, there's church league, there's football, little league football, there's baseball fields.
So,
And we have kind of a unique setup in Pryor in that if you go to other towns, you'll see a rec director or somebody that handles oversight of all these facilities. Here, all of our facilities primarily are maintained, if you think about the ball programs, they're all maintained by parents. Mom and Dad's Little League, Green Country Girls Softball, we think about baseball, softball. And those are the people that go out for the funding. And what they're challenged with, and the reason the subcommittee helps sometimes, they're challenged with somebody new comes in, you have constant evolution or change, who's responsible. So they come in and go, well, what do we do with all this? They're relying upon somebody in the past to tell them. And they're looking for ways to make improvements. So sometimes the subcommittees can help them as a go-to place to say, here's how we do it. And here's how you can make that happen. So that's a lot of words. But I think what we're coming down to here is we're trying to decide, do we want, do we need subcommittees and what role would they play and which ones would we need? And I think pickleball, we're seeing an illustration right now of pickleball, trying to get some traction on that and how we're gonna do that.
So how would this work? You'd have a chairman of the subcommittee, and their responsibility is to draw 2 or 3 just to focus on that and bring information forward?
Yeah, it would be nice if,
So that's, so like if it was a subcommittee and Roy's in charge of pickleball, he would have 2 or 3 people and they would run down all these details and keep it going.
and come back and present
As
to the
opposed
full
to
board.
just, it might be worth a try to see if there's some efficiency in there and maybe pick one to see if it's effective. Are you thinking of several though, or are
No.
you thinking of just maybe going down that path and see how effective it could be?
My honest opinion, Chris, I want to hear from you. If I asked everybody up here, how many places that the park is, Frank is responsible for to take care of, I think we would all be floored.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And I assure you that I don't know all of them.
I've got a list of them I put together years ago, but I didn't bring it with me tonight. But if you think about all the assets within the Parks Department, there are more than you'll think of, than you'll come to the top of your head when you think about, like I said, courts and parks and fields and, pools and golf courses and,
It's a large list. I do think pickleball, and I think, at some point, we need to figure out the youth sports, because you and I both sit on the same soccer board.
Yeah.
And as we know, that thing has taken on a new life. They've got lights. And I think at some point, we have to get to a subcommittee for youth sports. We have to.
Is this some kind of discussion that Lori Seaver was having with us the
Yeah.
other day? Okay.
We're at the crossroads to where we have to get better support, not from just us, but from the city council as well. Because if we look and did a survey of how much tax dollars, how much income those youth sports bring to our city, and we don't do enough service to support them. If it wasn't for Frank mowing, I mean, that's a huge chunk of what it takes to maintain those. The lights, the water, there is so much stuff that goes on, but you got to think, for instance, we both can speak on soccer. It's not a fall sport or a spring sport. It's a year-round sport. There's less than 120 days that thing's not used. And since they've got lights, now you just upped it to about less than 90 or less. So when you think about, well, that's just soccer. Well, whenever there's 300 players, do the math of how many people that is, mom and dads. Let's talk about grandparents, friends, families. So at any given time, that's just what's there in Pryor. Now we have other cities, Claremore, Owasso. We have Skytooth that comes in. I could go through the list. Now you've got those people coming to our city. So they're going to eat, buy fuel, and now with lights, they're going to talk about tournaments. So you have a greater amount of people and a greater amount of revenue stream just for that single sport. Whenever baseball was here, what did he raise? It was $40,000 or $50,000 in a tournament. How much do you think that put into our city coffers as far as tax revenue? So youth sports is a big chunk of money that honestly we don't look at very well. And we're responsible for maintaining it, and it's one of our assets. So at some point, it has to be a bigger focus upon what we do as a group.
Most of these groups, they're funded to operate them, but they're not funded to own the real estate. The real estate's owned by the city. And because they can't afford to go out and buy fields. But, you know, I think a good question to ask yourself, for those of you that have been on there a little bit, is what do you know about soccer and how it operates within the city? How they make that go with 300 kids, that they have games every Saturday, and they've got officials, and they've got fields that are taken care of, and some of the fields, Frank's got that piece of it. Then there's lights, and we have an agreement with MUB on whether, you know, it's a discount, but when lights have to be fixed. And so when you have this different administration moves through at the soccer field level, you know, they're struggling sometimes to figure out, how do I keep this going, the wheels on? They rely upon somebody that had been there previously. So I think we as a park board, it's an opportunity for us to be a go-to place to help all these people that are trying to make these things happen. We're a means to an end that they're trying to achieve, and we can help them. I don't know what Dennis would say about, I think he would say the golf course subcommittee that's been in place for a number of years. He's used that, and everybody has used that that's been in his role. And a lot of it's just bouncing ideas about membership fees. Hey, we need money at the golf course. How much do we need to charge? What do you guys think? And then the subcommittee would come forward and say, we recommend this to the community, recommend it to the board, and the board would approve it. So.
I think it'd behoove us to have subcommittees, and I think we need to limit it, because you get too many, then we're not able to focus hardcore on them. And with what's going on up north, we kind of want to get in the ground level now of getting some of these, like the baseball fields and stuff like that, set up for growth.
I think it was something we used to have subcommittees, and I was on the last one, the golf course, and I think it was me and Bill was only the last two left, but it was, we had a pool subcommittee, we had a golf course subcommittee, we had several subcommittees, and they were effective, and it's not that we got away from it, it's just a lot of our people have left, and I think you and I are the last, me and Chris are the last two.
If we want things to move, we need to.
Well, yes, I don't think we need a lot, but I think we need a couple, and so the reason why I brought it up tonight and put it on the agenda was, what subcommittees do we need and what is our thoughts? That's the biggest thing. I don't think we need to, if you don't wanna decide people, we've got a month to decide that, I have no problem there, but I would just like to get some type of ground level view of where do we think we need them?
What does that committee look like? One liaison from this board and then outside members
No,
of that committee?
it's just our sitting members.
No outside people on those subcommittees, they have to be right here.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to get input from outside people, or do we not wanna open the door for that?
Well,
Widen the
I
base
think,
A little bit?
yeah, I mean, the committee itself, when it
Yeah.
starts doing its homework, goes to outside people and will ask, do surveys or whatever.
But, I mean, what's a subcommittee look like that, let's say it's pickleball, okay, we'll pick on Roy, because that's really a going thing, and it might need some focus, but it's Roy, and then he says, well, I got a couple guys down there that are really committed to pickleball that I play with, and would there be something wrong with having a subcommittee that expands outside the boundaries of this? It still has to come here, but getting other people involved, or was that where your thoughts were going? Not
Well,
really?
I think it's and this is all open, obviously for discussion. But I think what the deal is that a lot of people don't know how to interact with the city when they're trying to get things done,
I would
especially
agree with that.
parents that are participating in these various programs. And they go, where do we go? And I think by coming to, that's a role that we could play, saying, we have a community interest, people interested in doing this. Could it come towards this board and say, you know what, sounds like something we need to look into. Pickleball subcommittee, will you guys take that and go run it to ground and see if this, or baseball field, they came looking for money last year. Where did we get money? Well, you know what, we don't have a lot of money to delegate to you, but we can help you find funding. And so, ball field subcommittee, go take that and see if you can help these folks fund it. Subcommittees, you're familiar, well, we all know how the city council is set up. City council operates with subcommittees. But the subcommittee can't approve it. All they're doing is elevating it to the board for the vote. That's similar to what this would be.
Okay.
The subcommittee's not gonna make the decision and go, they're gonna bring it to the board, but not all of us had to go do the homework.
So could you possibly have a subcommittee that's set up, and we're gonna pick on Roy again, so we have pickleball, and Roy is the chair of that subcommittee, and obviously, he can go out and get a couple of guys or a couple of people that are really interested in the community and pickleball, and he will know who those people are. And then they
Come
can,
back.
yeah, but Roy would be
Roy
the
brings it
chair.
back, but he
So you
uses
pick a
them.
chair that sits on this board, but then you go out and get other interested people. Like, can any of us speak for ball fields? I mean, other than you guys in soccer,
Right.
I mean, there needs to be somebody from here that's heading that, but then you go to bring in other people in the community that are really, that's their thing.
Mayor, got a question. Is that possible that we have outside?
I mean, they're just going to be
subcommittee.
giving,
Information.
information. They
Input.
won't be making decisions.
The whole idea of boards and council and committees is that you reach out to the public. You're
Right.
the liaisons from the public. Now, since we're picking on Roy, if Roy had,
Or Roy?
just
We're going to
take it in, Roy. You are the man of the hour.
Basically.
If the park board says, hey, we're gonna let Roy focus on these pickleball courts. Roy, go work on the pickleball courts. Once you leave here, you can do what you wanna do. You can go talk to everybody.
Right.
But you're the voice that's gonna come back to this board, and this board is gonna respect that was the task you gave. I think, if I could just interject, one of the things I'm thinking is, you've got golf and parks is the basic subdivision of this group. Have a 4-3 split, maybe, just hypothetical. You guys are parks, you guys are golf. Within that, what do you wanna do? But I think the element that I'm seeing is missing are goals. What are we looking to do 5 years out?
Right.
where are we gonna take the pickleball courts in 5 years?
Right.
Strategic plan.
And once we do that, I think you're gonna find it would be easier for the pickleball subcommittee to focus on how we're gonna reach that goal. So he goes out and he says, well, this is the goal the park board said, we're gonna focus on this. How do we go about doing this? What are the resources I need? He comes back to you, brings Frank, whatever. I think we should focus on goals first, figure out what we wanna see. You know, you got the Edwards Soccer Complex, which before too long should be the Edwards Sport Complex. You know, the football group is ready to drop a big chunk of money there.
Right.
And I literally, during the Mays County Fair, landed them 8 sets of bleachers for free. So if any of you have a trailer that can go get them, that would be great. They're over at the fairgrounds. But they're, you know, they're looking at that going, you know, as I came in, there was a lease on the table. Hey, sign that lease real quick, get them a year so we're good to go. And they're like, hey, we're gonna go somewhere else because we've got money we want to invest in our fields for our boys. We're not gonna do it in a year. We're not dumping, you know, we're not gonna drop $70,000 on a field that we're gonna have to go through this in, you know, 10 months. So, you know, I went back to them and we upped it to 25 years. Now they're willing to invest their money, put it there, so long-term that can be used for Little League football. Now we've got them some bleachers. Are they the best? No, but they're free, so who cares? They are actually all in really good shape. But the idea is now more people can come, more can get in there. So would this park committee look at, hey, we need to improve parking. We need to start thinking about our parking scenarios in our parking. And that gives us a direct, so we're not just out there, you know, aimlessly floating around. But that would be my 2 cents.
I think you're
And I
right.
would say with that, as an opening, this does bring up kind of a sensitive issue, and that is, what are your expectations? What are our expectations as park board members? Is it to show up at the meeting, 5:30 every day, and every month, and kind of go through the agenda and then go home? Or are we here because we have a vested interest in trying to work with, you know, the citizens and help them get some of their ideas up front, and us being a go-between that we can help bring these ideas to fruition, and when we see some good ones that we think are good and, you know, deserve attention, that we can elevate those to the people that are tasked with approving them or denying them and funding them. And that's the role of the city council and the mayor. And so I think that really gets down to, if we're going to be an active board, a good board, I think, we're gonna have to put some little time and energy into it, and that's where this happens. A lot of times, it's not at this meeting, it's outside of this meeting. So,
You know, I think
Yeah,
there's
right.
really merit in all that. I still think, I mean, I don't know where we were actually going with this as far as other members out. It is simply Roy surround himself with a couple people that he could use as soundboards and he would bring it forward. But I think there is real value in Roy being able to talk to people and saying, it's a subcommittee. And so that you get a commitment that way that he can work with these people a little bit better. It's not like I'm just picking your brain and then next week I'll pick your brain and then, well, maybe a month I'll pick your, but you're actually a functioning committee that they have commitment to. I think that gives ownership into the process. But
I think it does too, but maybe we're talking about, maybe Roy can go talk to whoever.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if
All
there's-
of it, right.
But there's probably a certain element of governance around it too, as a board. I mean, we are in the city charter,
Right.
or as these are roles and responsibilities of park board, and we have specific functions well, pretty general. So there's nothing that's stopping any of these subcommittees from going and getting, we had a pool subcommittee. All the work on the pool subcommittee was on the pool was basically done by the pool subcommittee, and then we brought it forward to the full board. And they asked questions about, well, why'd you guys decide this? Why'd you decide that? Why do you think this is a good idea and this isn't? The full board here.
Right.
And then we voted on it
Right. and
and made a decision. So I think that's kind of the mechanics behind it. So it's not, Roy has to go out, feel labeling Roy with all this, but if there's a pickleball subcommittee or a court subcommittee or whatever you wanna call it. I think it'd be good to have 2 or 3 members. You can't have 4 because that's a quorum. You gotta have less than 4. And
How do you see it, Roy? If you were going, okay, you're head of the committee, now
So-
what do you see?
So I see, as you're kind of looking at subcommittees, I'm looking at maybe a parks subcommittee instead of just pickleball, but something I still have interest in trying to see if we can get the skateboard. I mean, I think that's a project that's not real expensive, that maybe we could figure out how to do that someday. So have a park subcommittee that just works with the things at Whitaker Park, or maybe all the.
Just the
parks.
park system.
Just the park system, yeah. Not the cemetery, not the ball fields, not the golf course, just the parks. And then I see value in having a committee that just listing also just for it sounds like we need some guidance with the fields.
Youth sports.
I think as I'm listening and I hear Dennis, I think Dennis has a really good handle on,
The golf.
I don't know if he needs a subcommittee or not.
Correct.
I think he runs that and he doesn't need, I don't think he needs help, anybody telling him what
Maybe
to
it's
do.
just a special projects.
Yeah.
Maybe when
Some
what the mayor
projects,
said,
some
I like the mayor's, direction of, we need a plan. We need, I don't care, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, we need a plan. And then once we know, just like the skate park, we need a special projects group that works on the skate park. We need the same thing for pickleball. We need it for youth sports. Dennis seems
The
to have the
ongoing
golf course
and the-
covered. I mean, let's figure out where we need people instead of just, here's these committees and.
No,
just-
I'm glad you said that because that was I wanted discussion. I wanted, what do we need?
But
What-
what's the
how do we
goal?
do-
What's
right.
the plan?
Exactly.
Before we figure out, it's,
That's the reason why I wanted to have this on here was discussion. What is it? What does it look like? What are we wanting? And to me, our biggest deal is we need to identify a, 5 and 10-year project timeline. How are we gonna get there? And then we can build off that. So you answered a lot of what I wanted because I
maybe we
just,
start there.
what do we want? Because
just
we've
playing
talked about
off
it
the
up here on our board even, 1,000 times. The golf course was a perfect example. You had when I first got on here, it was a goal. They were doing that special, they was running it, and we paid a gentleman to help us run it. And honestly, Dennis, you could answer this. I mean, we first started that, what was the goal? It was what, 2 years? When we did, was it 2 years? It was the gold and the silver or platinum?
Yeah, that membership was a 3-year special, but it was, the
But
idea
it was designed.
to create longevity 4 and 5 years later, and that's what it did. It paid
Yeah.
off, later. And the guy told us that's what would happen if we did it right.
But it was a goal, this is what we needed, because at the time, membership was down terribly.
Right.
And it wasn't anything this was, it was just the way golf was.
There's the amount of people playing, and who
Yeah.
was playing,
That's
who
before Tiger
was
Woods.
leaving.
Yeah, that is right, during the Tiger Woods. But the good thing, but the one thing we noticed was, a lot of the people wanted monthly monthly pays. I mean, we identified so much stuff from just that to where we copied some of it, and it has been paid more than dividends on how we've done stuff, but it was very important. We had a goal, this is our goal. I mean, it was, Chris, you were very adamant about, what the cut was and how much the city was gonna get and how much, it was very well thought out and proven. But I think this is the discussion we need on how do we get, what is our 5 and 10 year? And thank you, Dennis, for answering that, but that was our big question.
Well, I think there's another element to this, and this varies from administration to administration. And I'm talking about administration from Zach's in office now as the mayor. And this has changed somewhat since we had a full-time mayor. We used to have part-time mayors. We've only had a full-time mayor. This is only the 3rd administration with a full-time mayor. Of course, Jimmy was in for a long time. But, and this is Zach's decision to make, but sometimes the mayors like to have, they're dealing with department heads, and they like to have, some of the mayors have liked to have had input from the board to say, hey, I'm getting this from a department head, and I've got overall responsibility, because I've got to make a decision, and the citizens are gonna stand up and say, I'm the one that made, hold me accountable for it. Do you guys have any input? I'm getting, this is the information I get, what do you guys think as a board? This is something that you're engaged in trying to help improve the quality of life through recreational activities for the city of Pryor, and I'm getting hit with this. Have you guys had this discussion, and what's your thoughts on it? Now, not everybody thinks that way. I don't know how Zach thinks about that, but there are other people that's been in that mayor role who have said, I appreciate the input. I want to know. So that's why Dennis was talking about something here. You just mentioned tonight. I can't remember what it was. Oh, you were talking about membership fees. So, I don't know, does the mayor want to have that conversation with Dennis and the park board not have any input in it, and then not have any ownership in it? Or would he appreciate, I'd like to hear at least what the park board says, since they're supposed to be a liaison to the community about, is this a good deal or a bad deal? But, I don't know what the answer to that is, but I'm saying that.
Are you asking for that answer right now?
Well, not necessarily, but if you've got an answer.
Well, listen, I think it's simple, and I think we can sum this whole item up on this agenda real quick is, I want goals. I want to see where we're going. Right now, there's not very many things in our city, except for mud. My gosh, you asked Jared for a 14-year goal, and he's gonna hand you a flash drive. He's got it. I'd love to see, before we worry about committees and subcommittees, I wanna know where you're going. What are we looking for in 5 years? What do we wanna be in 5 years? Where do we want the cemetery to be in 5 years? Do we want that piece of land in 5 years? Do we wanna be here in 5 years? Do we wanna have all those sold out? Golf memberships, do we wanna increase it by 30% in the next year? How do we wanna do? What do you wanna do? And yes, I wanna hear the park board, I wanna hear the rec board. That's what our charter was designed for, was to bring that middle step up a little closer, to put the extra minds in there. And so I wanna hear what you have to say, but I think before we get into subcommittees, let's get into goals. Let's see where we wanna go. And so, divide and conquer on that for as far as that goes. Who wants to focus on golf goals? Who wants to focus on this? And then bring it to the committee. You guys can decide that, maybe in the next meeting, put some time and thought into it. But I think really, let's hone it down to what we want to do first.
Well,
Out of that could flow from subcommittees as the ideas come through. And so maybe we have people that have responsibility to make sure the park issues are brought here, make sure the golf issues are brought here. And then if something comes out of that,
Once you have
I'm
those
trying to-
goals, you can identify where you
Need
need
the
subcommittees.
Well,
committees,
and this is the conversation I wanted to have, was what we had. What is it, because I'm gonna lean on you for a second. I've heard one of the things that you said was that, when Dave Stewart and y'all take people to come to look at, not just industrial park, you take them to the city and the parks and quality of life. So to me, part of what we're talking about is, it's important, what is our goals as a city of, 5 and 10 years, if that's what we wanna do. But I mean, it's important because we've got away from subcommittees in the past. There's not enough people, we've changed so much, and it's kinda got away from it. And I wanted to know, what is, do we want some subcommittees, or how do we get there? Who wants to do it? And I think we answered the question that I was curious about. What do we want? And Mayor putting his input, and so now we have a clear vision of where we're going, how we're gonna get there, how do we steer the ship to get it to what they're asking for.
I think maybe a good starting point kind of would be, let's get an inventory of the assets that fit within this, all these I think when you see the list, and we have that, and we can produce that, but of all the ball fields and all the courts and pools and whatever,
Yeah,
and we say, you're talking about a 5-year plan,
10-year,
10-year?
whatever.
Okay.
We need to evaluate each one of those assets to
Yeah.
see.
We say, where we want to be, what are the strengths and weaknesses, what they call it SWOT analysis.
what's doable in 5 years, what's doable in 10 years.
And we
But
can
also
do,
with that would come, Chris, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, it would come, you know, one of the things that Adam has talked about around the golf, or the golf, oh my gosh, around the soccer fields is he wants to put trails around there. So maybe that's not in a 5-year, but Adam would be able to know, okay, I need to make sure that we've put aside $1.5 million for these trails. That's a total arbitrary number for anybody that's writing numbers down. $1.5 million for that, he knows that I've got 10 years to develop $1.5 million because I want to get those trails done in that amount of time. So I think focus on the goals, focus on where we want to go. Maybe a goal is to identify all of our assets, identify them all and rank them and prioritize them.
Yeah.
And then once you have that prioritization, plan it out, delegate it out, and then the only thing left is follow up.
Good plan.
Yeah.
Does everybody agree with
Good
that?
discussion, I think
Yeah.
so, yeah.
It's good discussion.
I think it's healthy discussion because I don't think, and I want everybody's opinion, I don't think it's this should never be a one-person discussion about how we do meetings, and nothing with the past people or anything else, but I want everybody's input because we're all have different views, and I value everybody's view, just like Chris's view. I mean, there's many times I've sat right beside him and I don't agree with it, but it's also healthy to have that discussion and say, I don't agree with what your thought is, but it is what it is, because everybody has different views about different things, and we all have our strengths that we need to rely on, and I think that's how we need to govern by this board as well. And with that being said, I'll close our discussion about it, but you answered a lot of questions, and I think we answered a lot. Do you agree, Chris?
Sure.
So if we can get a list of assets that the park board is responsible for, that would be awesome.
And I also want to say one more thing.
Sure.
I haven't been on the park board very long, but from what I've seen from Frank and obviously from Dennis, they do a really good job.
Oh, my
of
gosh.
keeping track of everything and doing all the research and coming up with all of that information. And, I don't want them to think the subcommittee or the goals or anything has
No,
any kind
no,
of negative
none
impact on
whatsoever.
what
It's only to
I think,
restrict.
yeah, it's only to help
Support.
you guys because there's a lot on your plates and you're doing a great job.
Well
Yeah.
said.
Amen.
Well said.
Well, in the famous words of Bob Dylan, everybody has to serve somebody.
Bob,
That's just the way that it is.
I want to skip,
I'm showing your age.
I want to skip I-11 for a minute and bring up number 12, which is discuss possible recommend council action regarding allowing Lake Area A-Bait Chapter 13 to host a Halloween event and candy giveaway October 31st, 2023 at Centennial Park.
My name is Paul Stevens. I'm president of Lakes Area A-Bait. Some of you know me. You guys probably know who we are. We've been on the toy run, stuff like that over the years. We'd like to do this again. We've done it the last 2 years at Centennial Park. And the kids really love it. Parents love it. We put a lot of bikes on display, and we have a lot of trick-or-treaters. And it was a big deal last year. I mean, they wore us out.
I was going to say, y'all were done pretty early. I mean, you had so many kids.
Yes, I think we spent about $500 or $600 on candy, and we're gonna try to get some more this year, so.
Good.
We're gonna try to get a couple more groups if we can to help us, and, that's
You say
about
you've
it.
been doing it 3 years, 2 years? How long?
This will be our third year.
Third year.
It's the last 2 years, yes, and it was very successful. The first year, I think, was kind of it was kind of an overflow from the Whitaker Park, deal that went on. The last year was big, a lot of kids.
Do we have anybody doing Whitaker?
I was just gonna say, do we have anything going on at Wicker?
I don't know.
So it might be.
Would you
bigger.
rather
Do
be at
Whitaker?
Whitaker than you are
I
Centennial?
think sometime in the future, I would consider that for sure. I'd have to talk to my board.
Frank?
Yeah, no problem, it's been able to handle the trunk or treat,
Mhm.
but.
Yeah,
Would you rather do try Whitaker this year to see how it is instead of Centennial?
we could do that.
When is the city's?
31st.
It's also the 31st?
Yeah, downtown's doing it.
Yeah.
Is it
Okay.
3:30 to 6 or something like that?
So what time would yours be?
It's usually about, say 5 o'clock to about 8 o'clock.
So they could trickle from city down to the park from there.
Yeah.
If it
Would
was
it-
at Whitaker, it'd be closer.
Would it be best for you if we said we can accommodate you at either location and you make a
There you go.
decision?
Yeah,
Yes,
there you
that
go.
would be,
Yeah,
that'd be very good, yes, thank you.
Could Frank maybe speak to, have we had anything at Whitaker Park along these lines in the past?
Yes.
Yeah.
There used to be
Usually.
a trunk or treat, and it was big.
Was that the city deal, or who did that?
No.
It was a
Church?
church.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened last year, I'm not sure.
But nothing
Kinda
lasted.
did.
Somebody did it.
They done a couple of years, skipped a year, done a year, it hadn't been consecutive.
And some
But
of the
it's
churches,
always turned out good.
Have you heard of anybody wanting to do anything, Frank?
Not yet.
Yes, we would consider it. I can talk to my membership,
Give him the
and
first.
we'll have a meeting third Friday of this month. I can see what they think. And, yeah, we would sure.
I mean, not try to,
Yeah.
I know that you said Centennial, but I mean,
Yeah.
when we went by there last year, y'all were,
Oh, yeah. The only problem is parking on that one little parking lot. People
that's the reason
getting
why I
in and
was
out.
wondering
Yeah,
if we did
I
it at Whitaker.
That
Have a
is,
lot
that
more.
is an issue, because they can't go all the way, straight through. But we made it work, and, it was very good. There's no lights, that's another thing. It's
Well, I
a
mean,
little bit
Whitaker-
dark in there, but we're gonna try to finish about dark this year. We won't go
Yeah, I
past
was
that.
gonna
Yeah,
There's
I was
more
gonna
at Whitaker.
say, at Whitaker, you do have lights.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. But yes, if we could, one or the other would be great, yeah. But we gotta put it out on we'll put it in the paper, talk to Terry about that, and, we'll put it on Facebook and everything. We have a Facebook page. We have everything. So everybody knows us.
We have a motion.
Yeah, need a motion to approve?
I make a motion.
Second.
So, as it reads, it says, discuss possible recommended council action regarding allowing Lake Area Abate Chapter 13 to host Halloween event and candy giveaway on October 31st, 2023 at Centennial Park,
Or Whitaker.
Whitaker Park.
At a city park,
Addison.
Wow.
choice, basically.
Is that all right?
You're asking me?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Throw Bobby Buck in there if they want.
All right.
Two,
Okay.
All in favor?
Uh,
All opposed? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it's Lakes area.
Lakes,
That's our proper
Lakes
name.
area.
We are a nonprofit, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sitting there for 2 hours.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, wow.
Item number 11, discuss regarding park, cemetery, and golf course budget for fiscal year 2023, 2024. I'm sure y'all have had a little bit of time. Yep, this is the actual budget. In the past, we've talked about getting these. Chris is, I don't know how many years we've talked about trying to get some information. And we got them.
Thank you.
I kind of visited with a couple and kind of wanted to see what we wanted and how we wanted to do it and stuff like that. And that was, as you can see, some of the budgets went up, some of the budgets went down. Discussions?
I assumed on the golf budget, the portion that says golf, there we go. Golf, not employment tax, what is it?
The cart
No,
path
the sales
maintenance?
tax one, where was it?
Zach, you want to talk a little bit?
Oh, the
You and
sales,
Dennis?
sales tax collected, that's just the sales tax that's going into the city, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, excuse me, it doesn't go into the city, that's our Mays County sales tax, the state sales tax that we collect.
Golf sales tax collected,
Right. It's the money, sales tax we collect, it's a pass-through.
it's a pass-through, okay.
So the 736, 750, 27 proposed for this year, is that the extra in that, is that from your holdover from the previous year, Dennis?
There's 50,000 that we have in there for capital outlay.
Okay.
Okay.
Not including what the Cherokees.
Right.
Correct.
Is that what
We
the
have not
cart path
received that
maintenance
money
is?
from them yet.
Okay,
They'll, once we get our project started,
they'll fund.
they'll issue us a check.
I know that we talked, a couple months ago about the golf carts, and we're at the end of
Right.
our,
Close, so that's conversation we need to start having, we have a subcommittee about, because it's gonna be a couple years down the road to do that.
More,
Golf carts, you know, I think, a year from now roughly, these are paid off. So 2 years from now, we need to be looking at some more.
Do you generally get bids for those?
Oh, yeah, that'll be a big project.
the last ones were how old?
Who are they, two of them?
They were, that's what I was getting ready to say.
8 years, and it's just, you know, it's just not a good product to have, especially like we are been busy, so, you know, the golf carts get a lot of use.
Did we get a pickup?
Not yet, needs to go through,
But it is in your budget for this year?
no, and that's what's kind of a little different, you know. We've got $300,000 in our account,
Right.
right? So, and, so if you say 200 is excess, we keep 100 in there. How
Right.
do y'all want to spend that 200? And that's what we're talking about, bridges, you know, we need to get started on some bridges where hopefully maybe just spending money on engineering fees, and then we're able to, have some people purchase bridges for us. Park pass, pickup truck.
What year's your pickup?
98.
Yeah, I was gonna say like,
Yeah, it's got over 250,000 miles on it, so it's, yeah, it's past due.
We need to be looking at some of these utility companies. I know like Salinas Babenau used to sell their trucks at about 80 to 100,000 miles. They'd have to get rid of them. And we need to be looking at something like that where maybe they could donate something.
So did the chemical price go way up? Cause that's the only
Yes.
one I'm noticing that's like
Yeah.
really,
Things that went up, of course, is sales tax, chemicals, fertilizer, that stuff really went up high. A few other things.
some increase on your, irrigation,
Yeah.
not a lot, but
You get $10,000 in there again from last year for this year for the Halloween festival. So is that just gonna
Yeah,
stay,
it'll just roll up.
roll over?
When you had to do all the tree clearing and all of that this year, where did that come from?
that took just out of our regular maintenance
Okay,
budget.
it didn't,
Yeah, that was just
because I noticed
paying
that
the
you've
guys.
got an emergency expenses fund that there's nothing in last year or this year. I didn't know.
Now FEMA picked up some of that, correct?
Yeah.
They would, right. Takes sometimes 6 months to a year and a half.
And
Yeah,
then,
Johnny's been having those meetings and
Right.
and then
regular.
somebody else, the state matches part of it too, is that correct?
Yeah, so we'll know what we get out of FEMA as we go forward. Johnny's in the heat of all those meetings now, so.
So
That go back in our
I'm
budget?
trying to see the revenue on this side. I don't know, is that here?
For example, 2022, 2023, our revenue is like 760, and we spent 660,
So-
so about 100,000.
Ending 6/30 set 23. Ending 6/30/23, your annual revenues were how much?
760.
760?
Do revenues show on here anywhere?
I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
no, it's not.
So,
Not on this
so
one.
basically, you're budgeting
here's-
a surplus off of last year if you hold the same as far as spending, right? And last year's spending, were you within this spending budget last year?
This year, triple zeros.
Right, so there's kind of,
I always like to go back to what really happened, or comparing budgets to
That makes
budgets.
sense.
Okay,
So here, this is as of today, pending anything
Yeah.
that comes through. So there's your cash in.
Okay.
And you can see this is just for the period. since we're
year
right
to
at the
date.
beginning. And these numbers are gonna be just for the first month.
Year-to-date actual. But this is actual right now,
Correct.
not
As of
last
today.
year's.
3 months ending September. So that's the first 3 months of this year. And then last year's is,
I want to see last year's.
I don't have those.
Revenue.
numbers. I wouldn't get those.
but what you're saying, around 760 is what that number's gonna look like. And the first 3 months, is that ahead of last year, this?
Yeah, we're ahead of
your
last
first
year,
quarter
yeah.
is ahead of last year even?
Right.
Okay. And this doesn't include any of the funds that are set aside for cart path improvement?
Right, that's all in capital, that's all in Fund 44.
So that looks, so you made almost 100,000 last year.
Yeah, last year was a very, very good year.
Right, and that rolls over to where?
So,
Well, he's saying he's gonna spend it.
It's in there.
I mean,
Okay.
this is,
So it just
this is,
comes
this
over
is,
to
this is
there.
an expenditure,
Okay.
okay?
So,
And so you've got,
right here, here's our account.
right,
So money just keeps piling up in our account
Sure.
every year, right?
That's good.
So that's what, and yeah, the last couple of years has been really good, so it builds up. But we always wanna, because of our cash flow, we always try to say, okay, we wanna keep a minimum of 100,000 in there, that way we can make it through December, January, February, March.
The slow
then
months.
April, May, our memberships start coming due. Now, that has changed a little bit just because of our things that we
Monthly.
did. Now,
Monthly membership.
we're almost at $6,000 a month in memberships, where we used to, they used to always come in
At one
May
time,
1st.
and now they're,
Right, now there's a lot of
Okay,
them
I
that's
got
spread out. So, the way we've always done it in the past, and Chris, you can correct, because you've been here through this whole thing, is that, you know, we make excess money, but we create a budget of what we're gonna spend for that year. The excess money, we figure out how we're gonna spend that kind of separately.
Yes, and it's, the thing is, the golf course does not, historically, is not cash flow positive on a monthly basis.
right.
Some months you have a
Monthly,
positive
sure,
cash flow, some months you have negative,
So you need
so you need a reserve
you
to
bet.
handle it. But the other thing you guys are asking is about golf course operates as a profit and loss. The Parks Department operates as a cost center. Golf course is a profit center.
Yeah.
So you'd have to look at the balance sheet, and you'll see a reserve on the balance sheet for that excess revenues over expenses. And so that's kind of a reserve that's out there that says, this is excess funds that we've made in the last year. It's a balance sheet item, so it's sitting there
It's
as,
a carry forward,
it's a carry forward.
okay.
Right.
And when we need money for the next year, the mayor's tasked with making all this work. But he may say, okay, well, I don't wanna get into details on that, because this is what do we call these accounts?
Enterprise.
Enterprise accounts, which operate a little differently. I think the question I would have, Dennis, is, do you feel like this budget, this is the old hold them accountable question,
100%.
do you think with this budget that you can meet the obligations that the city's put upon you to operate this course, and that you won't need funds from the city?
Yes, with that budget, yes.
So, I mean, I think that's our important question is, does Dennis feel like with this budget, that he can address the responsibilities that we put on him to operate the golf course? And probably the other bigger question is can you do it without, you don't see any risk of having to come back to the city
for more funds.
for more funds? That's the goal of an enterprise fund.
Yes.
So the discussion that Dennis and I had from before May even was, you know, keep the balls flying, that's your job.
Yeah.
You know, the general fund is not there to support enterprise funds. And so, you know, he's in a good spot. He's got a budget that, you know, like I said, he can be held accountable for. He can run it, you know, but
You know,
he's
one
gotta
of the-
keep the balls flying. He's gotta keep
And one of
himself.
the things that my focus is, and I hear what you're saying, but last year he did 760, he's flat, he's gonna do 760, so there's enough to fund this, okay, it appears, with some surplus, okay? And you feel that even with the 736, you can run the golf course, so there'll probably likely be a surplus. Does that surplus always stay within the golf,
Correct,
I guess, umbrella?
yes.
It always
Okay.
stays in our account.
Yeah, so at the end of
Okay,
the
so
year.
it's there,
those are-
so
those are
there
notes
could
that
be
I
some,
can
there's some
hold.
additional carry forward that could be.
Correct.
And as we evaluate that throughout the year, how can we look at allocating that if we're able to help with these bridges and that plan as this develops? I think that's a good number to keep in front of us, because we have to, of that extra pool of money that's accumulated, we have to keep reserves to cover the fluctuations in cash flow and still be able to try to fund some of these things that need to be funded. And what does that number look like, and how reasonable is that gonna be? I think that's where we have to look in the future on this too.
I can tell you, this is the first, 4 years ago?
It's a good problem to have.
we didn't have, this was
Yeah.
not a conversation that we used to have.
It's a good problem to have, you
That
bet.
first year, we made really good money, but just, all right, now we got money that we can cash flow all year, we're not getting in the red or anything. And then last year, we made.
Exactly right.
So,
A lot of it is been improvement upon equipment, in which everybody was like, I can't believe you spent this much money on equipment, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If we had not have spent money on equipment, new golf carts,
Right.
improvements in so much stuff out there, we would not be having this conversation today, what we're doing. And it is nothing but from, this is our goal, this is where we're going,
Getting back into it.
correct,
when you talk about the goals there, 3 years ago, I did a 5-year goal.
right, that's correct.
We have all
Top
that.
25 or 50 that you wanted to get done.
Right. We have that, I still have it, all the, capital improvements, the cart paths, bridges, the house, equipment. I've got a whole list of capital improvements.
What's the formal name of that fund?
The informal name would be 41, Fund 41,
Fund 41?
be golf course.
Talk about the
It's the, what now?
cash fund,
Which fund are you, which one?
I'm
are you
talking about your cash balance fund.
cash balance fund.
Yeah.
That's where all this carry forward is and all
Yeah,
the cash
that's,
flow goes down to that on a month-to-month basis.
Oh, did we leave it up there?
How about that?
What is that?
Ron, I think it would show up in the income statement.
I don't know.
And ultimately on the balance sheet.
It's the revenue fund.
Well, you had this one, what is it called? I mean, I just want to make sure I can remember.
41 and then the triple zero here.
Yeah, but, no, this one, right here. That's called, that's the.
I tried telling you
The
that.
name for that fund is the,
The Office of Manure.
just, not 41 allocation fund, okay? It appears to me that just look at
Usually we
that
did it
month in
like we
and
did
month
it
out,
last
it'll
year.
tell you the cash flow variances on the golf.
I do have a question on the, so you have Halloween Festival on here?
I'm sorry.
The Halloween Festival? Is that what the hayride thing was?
Yeah.
So it's not happening, so that's really,
Right. So that would
so what are we
That'll
doing with
just
that to,
roll over
in
for
this
next
fund?
year Unless they decide, you guys
Gotta
decide
have
to
an
move
Easter
it
egg,
somewhere else.
By chance, did you have a corresponding entry on the
There you
revenue
go.
side, expected revenues from that boo-hoo or brouhaha?
Yes, yeah.
So you would need to also take that
Yeah.
out.
We try to break even at worst case scenario.
Okay, so it's probably, they're pretty close. And I think this is probably a good opportunity to talk about, just for a second, Dennis being an enterprise fund, we have always tried as a park board that the enterprise fund does not get funded from the city.
Yeah.
Because the city's not anticipating it.
Right.
City's prepared a
There's no
budget
budget
based
for the city
upon.
for it.
Huh?
There's no budget for the city for this.
No, and so when it comes up and we get into these discussions, which you, if you were to go back and look, you would see a lot of fairly heated discussions we've had over the years. When it comes down to, hey, we're short on equipment, we don't have enough reserves to buy the equipment, we need somebody to fund it. And that's where we as a board get involved and say, hey, are we staying true to our principles of how we wanna operate this? And if not, then I think one of the things that we have to be willing to think about is, if we're gonna be relying upon the city to fund an enterprise fund, a golf course, then there may be times that the city may come back and say, hey, you're doing good, we need a little help with the city to get some of that money back that we gave you
Yeah.
a few years ago. And that's not an unfair question, I don't think, because
No.
these
I mean,
things
it's
are
all
set
part-
up
yeah, it's all part of the
as
city.
enterprise funds.
Correct, but unfortunately, the funds from an enterprise cannot come back to the city. That's not allowed.
Okay, so that's
So
not
could
even.
they do
a-
it as a donation though?
Sacred money
They
then
can't
for the
donate or
golf
anything.
course.
Well-
Once it leaves the general fund, it's gone. So, there's no paying back. I mean, that would require a lengthy process, legal process. And, you're correct, the general fund does not have budgeted to support the enterprise funds. If we're gonna support Dennis, we're gonna support Mike, and that's not happening.
Well, I think it was, one of the reasons why I wanted that put on there was just what we're talking about. I think it gives everybody who's new ideas of this is what we've done. And the golf course was a perfect example, and thank you, Dennis, for talking about it because I'm telling you, there was several times when I first got on here, it was $100,000 that we had to figure out how we're gonna cover it. And whenever we went to go out for bids for the golf carts, it was financially, the question Chris brought up, I'll never forget it, was, are we gonna be able to cover this payment with revenue from memberships, and is it gonna sustain, how does it look, where we're at? And it was very, very lengthy talk about it, but at the end of the day, the investment has more than paid for what we've got in return. It's obvious to see that it did, but it was, we sure we can do this, and it was, Zach, I think you were was city council, and it come from your city council, was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, what are these boys doing?
Well, I just always think back to the Freudian slip I had that one council meeting. He was talking about, remember that, your hole number 9 or whatever was dry and dirty and,
Yeah.
I didn't mean what I said, but we won't go there. It just happened, but I basically told him, city's not responsible for the dirty hole.
Yeah.
But,
You know, I've operated that golf course for 22 years now, and I think we've been into black 21. And that's through some difficult times. And when you look at my industry, right, there's no other golf courses that do that around here, right? Claremore subsidizes, the city of Claremore and the county of Claremore subsidizes each $75,000. They get $150,000 a year. Owasso, about $450,000 a year. Sand Springs, about the same. You know, golf courses in the state get subsidized. We're the only one that, we did get some equipment one year, right? And that was a huge help, but that got us on our feet. But these other golf courses, that is our competition, get subsidized every year to make their golf course run. So,
Dennis, you stole my closing comment, and that was going to be is, after all this we've talked about, Pryor is the only golf course that I'm aware of, there may be others out there, that as a municipality, we are self-funded. This thing has made a go of it. And it's no secret, even though if you've ever watched these meetings sometimes, you'll see us butting heads. But the reason is Dennis. I mean, we're fortunate, and where we're really, and he and I have had this a little bit, something that we gotta think about. If we're gonna maintain this, we gotta think about transition at some point.
right.
Dennis is, that's something that as a board, we want some continuity. And I don't know, quite honestly, where we're gonna find somebody that's got your background and experience and can do it all. It just doesn't, we've never had that, and we have it. And so publicly, I do want to acknowledge
I think
that you're the reason that Pryor's been able to do this.
I appreciate that. And, my only solution to that problem, because, I'm not gonna be here forever, is to, at some point, and that has been talked about, even in my plan, is to eventually, we'll have to pay extra and get somebody on there that I can train for a couple years, because you're not gonna learn it 1 year.
that's not happening during the hiring freeze.
Right.
I love that.
I was waiting for that
Good job, man.
comment.
Down
I'll have it now.
but, the future, that's the way I would perceive that to
You
happen.
thought temps were hard to get right now. All right, well, good deal.
That's reality, though.
Any other questions?
Anytime y'all have any questions, please come out and ask me, call me, feel free.
Is
So-
Frank good with his?
Frank, are you good with
Budget?
yours?
Yes, sir.
Any
All right, discussion regarding Parks Inventory. So we need to make a motion then, or is this a discussion, so there's actually nothing to be
Yeah,
done?
no one
Just
discussed.
mention the review.
Awesome. All right. Item number 13, discuss possible recommend council regarding the design and purchase of a skate park. Frank? You're up to bat.
I guess if y'all get copies of,
I'm gonna tell you right now, I have had more people say, is this gonna happen? Is this gonna happen? Is this gonna happen?
so,
If we get that, that's a game changer.
Yeah, I
so
think
it,
so too.
it took a while, the get the budget passed this year. And so by the time it did, we kind of decided to kind of go back to ground zero and almost start back over. So I re-got with the skate park rep, and basically, he said that's probably a good idea. The first design, I didn't know it, he said it was basically just for advanced, skaters. So this new design here, and I just got it like 3 o'clock today. I just got it myself. But this will accommodate all ages and bicycles. He said the other ones, bikes would work, but it wasn't designed for bikes. So kind of like one of the discussions on the task force with the pool to accommodate all ages.
Right.
And so this one, is designed for the whole 100 by 120 area of the volleyball court. There's 2 phases with even room to expand even down the road. That's why when you look at the pictures, they're kind of spaced out. And not that that's just on us if we want to. That's not in a design yet, but he said it's there if we want to down the road. That's later. But this one, this one's about 50,000 cheaper than the other one, and part of that goes back to the budget being a little bit tighter than what we was hoping, this year. So I have talked to Cherokee Nation at one time was going to give us 50,000.
How much?
50.
50?
Okay, so I talked to him today, not till about 4 o'clock, and he's going to have to double check to see on that. He still talked real positive we're going to get some, but he couldn't tell me just yet. He said by the end of the week, we would know how much. So between what we have budgeted in capital outlay and what we're probably going to get from Cherokee Nation, then I would propose we could do the what phase 1 don't include, that we would be out of pocket, is the concrete. That's equipment. They do all the equipment. And we had figured it's going to be around about 30,000 to do the concrete.
We do have somebody willing to give us
A discounted price on the concrete. So,
You feel
Is
comfortable
that
with
gonna be
everything?
bid out?
I have a letter from the company saying they are a sole source with above-ground skate park.
No, I'm talking about the concrete.
Well, usually the city just uses,
The guy,
the street department handles that.
okay.
And it's one of those where we would do the work
So on that
at a certain,
concrete, I don't want to take over, but on that concrete, it was a private individual that offered to give us his price on the concrete, which is significantly, it's a big discount.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's
that's
a
not,
30,000
concrete's not
street
in
hour
this.
cost, so it should be even cheaper.
Okay.
Yeah, the concrete's not in the packet you got today.
No,
No.
no.
That's what he's saying, that'll be
That's-
additional.
Yeah, so it'd be the first phase was what, like 92,
Yeah.
and then it'd be approximately, another 30,000.
120.
Did you say how much the concrete might be? Did I miss that?
About 30.
About 30?
Depends how thick, that fluctuates,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And they've sent like spec sheets to me and everything, and I've passed that on. And like I said, that the 30,000 was based on our price, so it should be even though.
So if it gets approved through council, how long would it take to get?
Okay, so the reason I'm trying to get this, there's 2 reasons. They said I gotta have surgery in a couple weeks. I'm gonna be down.
Right.
But they said it's 3-month out window to get the equipment. So the longer we go, it'll be the middle of winter.
Your next meeting is October 3rd?
Next Tuesday.
Are we gonna have trouble with the council on this?
Approving it? I don't know, we'll see.
You know, this whole thing's over my head because I don't have kids in that arena and everything, but I don't hear anything but a lot of positive things
Me
being
too.
said about this
Me
all
too.
the time.
But I have heard one of the
For
council
people
members
that
say
know,
he's not going to
it's-
support it.
By not having
Yeah.
the pool, this goes back to giving something for the kids to
They need it.
Yeah.
do.
We can't just stop the world.
What's
I
the,
haven't heard any negative towards it for,
No, I haven't.
what's the time between the different phases?
That would be up to us, like next year, we would try to budget the other amount. just
Next
for
July?
Next July, yeah.
Well, I would entertain, or any other discussion before we ask. Chris?
And we will do, we take down well, we can still discuss that later if we wanna take the fence down or leave the fence up. The company themselves, they don't really recommend one way or the other. When we went and looked at others, like Claremorris was fenced in, Collinsville's is not.
Yeah, that's what, I went and looked at several of them just to kind of see. Owasso's was non-fenced.
I would say, since it's next to the splash pad,
I would
you
fence
would
it in.
want the fence up.
I would,
Or you're gonna have 2 and 3-year-olds wandering on it.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's even crossed our mind maybe to leave one fence, cause what we were concerned of them, if actually like being skateboards, they will grab hold of the fence or swing on, but that, we can discuss actually that part later. We'll take sections of it down anyway, so we can get all the sand out and do the concrete, but we're doing all that, so that's no additional cost. But that's one thing that's nice, kinda, with the 3-month wait on the equipment, we don't have to rush to get that done.
You're in a good time of year to do it
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
What is the life, like, expectancy of the ramps and stuff?
There's a pretty big warranty. Did I not have that in this packet? It's actually a pretty big warranty.
Let's see.
I had that with the first design. I'll have it by the time it goes to council, I'll include it, with the council, but it was a pretty nice warranty.
Can you have Jay send that out to all of us?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful, and I know this, maybe the process, the timing doesn't allow for this, but we're asking to approve it. My preference would be, before I stick my name on something, is to know, is there a project plan? Do we have a time frame, a time schedule? Do we have warranty information? Do we have, we know that this is the best and final price? And do we have a scope, that we know what the scope of work is?
I would say yes to everything you've said so far.
Yeah, but is it on paper?
I got the warranty on paper. I just told her I got it. It's a pretty, decent,
Has he provided any type of a task list that says, here's a chronological list of tasks on how I'm gonna do this, and what I'm gonna have in place, and when I'm gonna have it in place?
they install it all. All we do is,
That'll be in the contract.
all we do
I'm
is
sure.
put the concrete pad ready,
It'll
and they
be
come
in the
install,
contract.
turn.
They just bring it in piece by piece and
Yeah.
hold it down.
So it takes like a day or two to put in or
No
whatever?
engineering with this, there's no, like I said, basically, they're the company, they're the experts at this, that's why I've been asking them for the design. I don't really know.
Concrete work will take longer than installation
Yeah.
on the ramp.
But that's why I did incorporate with this one, there's small ramps it incorporates all ages with this design.
It's a good
I
idea.
mean, I'm
The
a,
first phase, I think, is mainly towards the younger, and it highlights, I haven't got to look at whole lot, so I got it just not too long before but it highlights which, like, phase 1 and phase 2.
And it shows payments, estimated monthly payment, 5-year term, $3,723.64.
But they've even worked on this a couple of weeks, and we've went back and forth on this. That's why it took, so they knew I needed it for tonight's meeting. And we've actually, it's not like I just called them and, hey, told me a design. We've went back and forth on this for a couple of weeks now.
Does this include a fence?
No, he said, that's on us. He said,
we already have it been.
So we've got the fence there that's with the volleyball court now.
that's totally up to us.
So we don't need any additional fencing?
No,
Have to
no, we don't
reduce
even
it.
need any fencing. He said, that's what
I know up front, like doing it all cement ramps and stuff would be more expensive,
Oh, yeah.
but, yeah, I know it would be, but longevity wise, would it pay better?
No, they're underground. There's drainage, you gotta put
Well, no, yeah.
those. That's for Broken Arrow, Oklahoma City. Yeah, them concrete ones aren't for small towns like. Yeah, they're big time.
I think we've talked about this before, but is there any concern liability issues that are significant that goes along with something like this over what we already have?
Yeah, all of them.
Like kind of all
Like
gets absorbed.
Bash
together.
Plaid.
Will you have to place signage, I'm sure?
Yeah, it'd be kinda like a hotel pool with no lifeguard, you know,
Like splash pad.
post this.
Yeah, the splash pad.
The big thing
Same
we've
thing.
inspect, just like the splash pad, we clean it every morning, pretty much, every other morning. But, it's like the skate park, the only thing would be if we inspect weekly or, you know, every few days, the big thing on it would be if there was like a loose bolt and we, you know, didn't see
Right.
it.
Well, your skaters and bikers, you know, that's something that was in my background, not me, but I had a bike shop. They're gonna inspect those things before they get on, because, you know, it's their kneecaps, they don't wanna lose them. So they're gonna check the bolts, they're gonna sweep it off, they're gonna keep it maintained
And
themselves.
the 2 or 3 towns, like I said, I checked with, none of them had anything negative towards doing it or regrets. You know, they all,
Oh, I think it's something this town needs.
I do
Our kids
too.
don't have anything. That
Yeah.
age, they don't have anything.
I do agree with Sherry, though, I think we need to leave the fence up being right next to the,
yeah. Well, and that we can decide on,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Any other discussion?
Maybe one last question, and this is probably more for the mayor. On these types of projects, who within the city reviews all the project documentation and manages, from the city's perspective, from a standpoint, are we on schedule, are we?
Are you asking historically?
Project
No.
management.
Because historically, it's no one.
Yes, that, and I think we're probably all familiar with that, which I think is an
Yeah.
issue. How do you see the city handling this going forward? I mean,
Well, I think going forward, we have to look at the, you know, the subject matter experts, you know, the ramp company, we're gonna talk to the concrete people that do, Buddy does concrete every day. Our street department can lay some of the best concrete, you know, around, you know, they know what they're doing. When it comes to installation, you know, this company out of Joplin, they are a sole source, that's what they do, and they've got much cooler stuff than we're getting. I would trust them that they would do that. I think though we do need to just look at it, make sure we review liability with Chase, maybe make sure we, you know, that we're covered on all those ways. That's all easy stuff that we do on the side, but I think going forward, you hit it, man. We gotta start checking plans and
So
going.
you'll have the city attorney check the contracts and all of that.
Correct.
At least this one is more of a simpler one, because like there's no engineering involved with
Yeah.
this, and the company does it.
But here's something I would throw out that for Frank, and this involves budget, from a total cost of ownership standpoint, you do have your phases of, you define, you design, you develop, you deploy, then you gotta operate, maintain, and repair. Have you thought about what the budget is to maintain and repair and operate this?
Yes, and honestly, with the skate park and talking with the other, like I said, with Collinsville and Claremore, there's honestly not, the biggest basic thing is, if you wanna say any vandalism, which that's already a daily thing at the park. Like sometimes they'll paint on the ramps or, you know, the sides, and he said that's probably the biggest, that is the biggest thing.
Gotta
That's
fix it,
already a
lock it up.
daily, that's already a daily part thing. So, other than that, and like I said, if there's any issues, it's gonna be warranty for the first few years.
If I remember right, you said that was I keep thinking you said lifetime or like 20 years. It's out there, so.
I've got it, and I'll
Yeah.
include it when it goes to council, and that, and the sole source letter and everything.
Well, I think probably the biggest risk on this, and it is on all the insurance, is you can't insure it against negligence. And negligence is,
Well, that's what
we
I'm-
don't maintain it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, well,
Like
how,
it's
we'll
supposed to be.
inspect it, you know, daily, and then I've already talked to the utility department,
when we originally talked about this, you had even mentioned, and I could be wrong, stop me if I'm, that they'll even come out and check it if we need them to. Like that was part of the,
Yeah, that was the
just
thing.
being that they're right up in Joplin.
Claremore said, they've had theirs going on like 12 years, and they still call them every year and just check in on them and stuff, so it's.
So they'd be willing to do like a yearly inspection or something?
Yeah, it's a pretty good company, and the 2 or 3 I've dealt with have been, seem real knowledgeable, and like I said, this, we went back and forth on this for a couple of weeks, and, you know, they were asked, you know, they'd send something, look at it, blah, 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 but yeah.
Well, I think it's a good design, and like everybody is saying, it's something the city needs, and I'm actually kinda excited about it because there's been lots and lots of talk about it. There's been both up and down. I have no idea what the city council is gonna think about it, but from the standpoint from this board, I think it's something that the city desperately needs. And at least put us in the age of above horse and buggy and something. I mean, we haven't done anything in forever, so I hope that city council takes that to heart. So, like a recommendation from the board,
I'll make a motion, we move this to the city council for approval.
Pam, you second it? Roll call, please,
Oh,
for further discussion.
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, roll call.
okay.
Oh, hang on.
Oh,
No.
the first phase is, I'll give you a copy. The first phase was like 92,000, and the second phase was like 42,
49,
40 what?
49.
Yeah, first phase is $92,627.97. And then. Okay, awesome.
And then the cement, 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roll call.
So, wait a second here, I just heard something. You said cement
It's an
is on,
extra.
is on top, so it's,
Yeah,
we're talking about 180,000.
Yeah, time you're done with the
Yes.
cement, if the cement comes in at 30,
Right
which
now,
is a
we're not
reasonable
talking
guess.
the whole 180, just 120,
yeah.
Well, less
We're
than
doing
that.
phase
We're
one.
doing phase one only, so
phase one, and the concrete.
that's a good clarity to make in the motion, for sure, thank you. That's a
So-
good clarity to make.
Phase one is what we're sending the council to do, and
Plus cement.
phase one only.
Phase one plus concrete.
Plus,
Okay, just review that for me again, I'm not,
Okay.
got lost here.
Okay, so it says discuss possible recommend council regarding the design and purchase of a skate park. So we're gonna do phase one first. Phase one cost is $92,627.97 for the equipment only
Installation.
and installation. Concrete, 30,000, what was previous budget, but with, help from a private donor, we'll get it down considerably. So-
30,000, I think was the number.
Yeah, 30, so $100 and some thousand dollars.
120,000, or 90 plus the 30,
123.
123,000. And then what's the other 40,000?
That is
Phase
phase
two.
2, like,
50,000.
I'll budget,
Additional
try to
equipment.
budget that for next July.
Additional equipment, and it's all spelled out on this sheet that you've got. You've got phase one
On
and
the
phase
very
two.
last
This is
page.
phase two.
Yeah, you're looking at phase two right there, Chris.
Okay.
And in front of that is phase one.
So total rolled-in cost of this is 142 plus,
30.
About
30.
172.
It's about 50,000 cheaper than the first design.
I'm just asking how much it's good. It's
Yeah,
100,
about 180,
180,
thereabout.
and it'll be operational.
Well, it'll be operational even after phase one.
Right. Phase
When will it be operational? When will we
Well, they said
actually be
there's-
able to skate on
If
it?
it gets approved, then they said it's about a 3-month wait for equipment, so then it will just depend on.
First
January,
year.
February.
Yeah, weather
First
probably, so.
Probably Q1
Yeah.
23.
There
If
you
it's
go.
approved in the next
Q1
council
24.
meeting, by first of the year, they will be skating on
Right.
phase one.
So it doesn't take long to install.
No, shouldn't.
It's good.
Again, the concrete work will take longer than the
Yeah.
installation of the ramps.
And that's depending on weather too.
Do you want to
I will amend my motion to phase one, okay, but in the, plus the concrete.
A second.
So phase one plus
Terry has a
concrete?
question.
And the concrete, the phase one, it would
Yes,
obviously
Barry.
include the concrete.
So what is the budgeted amount for phase one for this year? This says 5-year,
So new amended phase one with concrete.
With concrete, which, yeah. And
And
an
it's been-
estimated cost of 123 if you want to put it in there.
We've had motion and second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Riser?
Yes,
Sorry.
that's why I couldn't recognize it. I used to sell groceries. You know what the name of my grocery store was? Reese's. See, now you'll remember that.
Buffington?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Alexander?
Yes.
Graves?
Abstain?
Shelby?
Yes.
Graybill?
Yes.
Awesome.
All right, thank you, hopefully, good news on the next board.
Unforeseen business?
We have coffee and pizza next time.
Yes.
We're gonna be for 3 hours.
So, before we get to adjourn, I just want to say thank you all for electing me mayor.
One quick thing, I just want to bring, because it'll, I'm super fast. We're putting fuel tanks at the police and fire. One of the, going forward, if I can just get a head nod, I'd like to put fuel tanks also at the cemetery, the park, anywhere that they need it. It's through Agriland FS. They provide the tanks and it's 20 cents per gallon, less than retail. It's gonna save us a lot, but are you guys okay if I
Yep.
just take that?
And the golf course, do you?
Yes,
Yeah.
Awesome.
please.
So, only other thing I had was thank you for the nomination. I appreciate it. It will be a very moving board to where we all are active. We've had 2 months of trying to do what we've done tonight, so yes, it took a little bit longer, so
That's not bad. That's just hour and a half a month.
we'll get it down quicker.
I eat at 6 and I go to bed at 8, and I'm still
You
here.
gotta quit doing stuff like that. You're gonna have to change your habits.
So I'd like a motion from the board to adjourn.
I do.
Sherry, you want a second? All in favor?
Keep her awake. You gotta keep her awake first.
Thank you all.
Sherry,
We're bringing snacks next.
I gotta have snacks, I can't.
I've been eating gum like crazy, so I don't.
I still gotta go make dinner.
Ouch.
Gosh.
Gotta do what?
I still gotta make
Driver
dinner.
chair we've got.
Well, this is a
This
little
is not a
longer
good
than we usually do.
How this is gonna go.
Well, welcome aboard.
It felt like it did.
I could probably.
You all asked for your budgets.
Yeah, we got
Budgets, you know what your
several.
budgets are.
So welcome Autumn to your first meeting.
Hey, we did one with, one year we did a pirates. We had tons of equipment, tons of, man, it was a huge deal. We won't do those again. Thank you for being on board.
We used to do that. I called in the past, I used to say, yes, sir. Oh, thank you, appreciate it. Great job.
I'm really sorry, I like, I